unedited. You already know what it is. Live, uncut, unedited. You already know. All right, people, y'all know what time it is. Come on in, come on in, come on in, people. Running a little late, as usual. Come on in, people. This is live, uncut, unedited. Right now, people, come on in, come on in. Want to shout out to my YouTube family. Okay. My Facebook family, come on in. Make sure you guys share the video. I got a guest tonight, this young people tonight. We're going to see what the young folks got to say. They're going to tell us up, people. I already know that. They're gonna show out on us tonight, I tell you. I already know, boy. I tell you. I can feel it. I can feel it. I can feel it. I said, Lord, just give me strength. Give me strength. Come on in, people. Live, uncut, unedited. We coming. They coming. Leave the comments. Leave the comments in there. We on YouTube and Facebook. All right. Come on. How's that? Is that an echo, sister?
No, no echo.
Okay. It's
What
good.
about me?
Okay.
I'm good.
Oh, yeah, you good. I just had me an echo. That's all. Little echo on my end. Mic check. 1 2 1 2.
Hi,
That's better, right?
Monique.
All right. You see Monique? Okay. All right, people.
Hey,
This is
Ronnie.
good. All right.
Hey,
All
Virginia.
right. Hey, y'all. Are you looking at them comments, huh?
Yeah, I see the
Yeah. Okay.
comments.
All right, people. Y'all know what time it is. This is where we tell the truth and shame the devil. And we're gonna talk young people. We're gonna talk basically politics and stuff. So I'm going to let my dear sister lead today, and I'm going to sit back and just watch again, y'all. The number's on the screen, 872-299-0808, or you can call 872-297-6389. All right, can you hear me?
Yep, I
Everybody
hear
hear me?
you
Okay.
loud and clear.
Mic check. Okay.
Hey,
Uh,
Miriam.
all
Ah,
right.
Miriam's on. My
All right.
peoples.
The number on the screen, y'all. We go.
Hey, Miriam. Oh, my
That's
God.
right. In the house, baby.
Talking about
They got
Erica
this
the
old man.
socialist. I can't.
Uh, all right
Somebody
now.
just said to turn up your volume, Martin.
Okay, let me turn up my volume. Mic check. Can y'all hear me now?
Yep,
Mic check.
I hear you.
Okay.
Hey,
Make sure they can.
love, Sabrina.
Yeah. All right. Somebody said that was very touching, Martin, from this afternoon. Listen to Reverend Jesse Jackson. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, brother. All right. They said Erica the socialist. All right.
They got
Martin,
me
turn
so
up your
wrong,
volume. Okay.
Martin.
Is that it?
But they about to find out today.
Oh, okay.
There's a
Wait. This
difference
your
between a
show.
socialist and a revolutionary.
Somebody said, AV, unblock me. Go to YouTube. You must have said something bogus for me to block you, because I normally don't block people like that. I ain't petty like that. You got,
Aviaire be saying bogus. I think I might have blocked Aviaire. You be on
uh,
some bogus stuff
okay.
sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. I don't really block people like that. So,
All right. All right. Now, Erica,
but we
before you
welcome
get
you
started,
tonight. We
now,
welcome you to the discussion.
Erica, before you get started, I just want to show something real quick. All right, people, come on in. I want to show something real quick. Let's see. Y'all know I like to, I got to,
Martin, they say your volume is still really low. You could turn it
okay.
up some. Ain't no echo.
Hold on. Let me put it, okay. Mic check. 1 2 1 2. 1 2. Let me go to this other screen. Hold on, people. I'm gonna put it up. Hold on, people. I get it right. I get it right. I'm gonna get it right. Hold on, people. I'm gonna get it right. Hold on. Let me get it. Make sure I get it right. Oh, right here. All right. Let me turn my little mic up a little bit. Is that better? One
That's
two, 1 2 1 2. Mic check.
Yeah,
What?
that's a little louder. Is that better for everybody? Or you can do
Let's
a
see what
little
they
louder
say.
without echo?
Somebody give me a mic check. Mic check. Is that good?
Yeah, that sounds a lot better.
Okay. I want everybody to turn it up a bit. Okay. Is that good? Is that good?
I think it sounds good. What y'all think? Yeah, it
They
sounds
say
good.
yes. Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. Okay. We good. We good. Okay, Erica. Let me just play. I want to play just something real quick. Then we can get started.
Hi, Chris Moore.
Uh, all right. Let's see. What is it that I want to play? All right, hold on. Let me go to the screen. Figure out what I want to play.
Somebody said to turn it up just a little bit more.
A little bit more. Okay, let me go back. Let me turn it up a little bit more. Hold on, let me cancel this. Let me go to turn it up a little bit more. All right, hold on. Turn up a little bit. Mic check. 1 2. 1 2 1 2. One
That's
two.
good.
Is that better, people?
I think it sounds great.
Okay. We want to see what the audience say now. Okay. All right. Can y'all hear? Turn it up a little bit more. Somebody give me a mic check. Mic check. Is that good? Okay, we're good.
We good.
Okay.
We good.
Okay. Okay. Let me just get this little page set up. All right, Erica, what you want to talk about today?
Man, oh man, I got a
Uh,
lot to talk about,
oh Lord.
Martin.
All right, don't be cussing us out now.
I'm not.
All right, don't be cussing us out.
I want to welcome all of the folks that I know, the young folks,
Okay.
student organizers, youth activists that are joining us. I'm so glad to see y'all here, all the original listeners. Nathan, I see you. I've had some convos with you. You're dope. It's just good to see this like kind of new group kind of forming on the show from my group and my people's and yours. And that's what this is all about, honestly. So no secret, I support Brandon Johnson for mayor. But one of the things that I really love about this campaign, my generation, most of us wasn't even alive during Harold Washington. We never got to experience that. We only read about it. So for us is our Harold Washington moment. And one of the things I love as an organizer out here in the community is that I see how much the organizing community and different communities are coming together. Because for those that don't know, the organizing and activist community in Chicago can be just as messy as Chicago politics sometimes. And I'm just telling the truth, shame the devil, as you say, Martin. It can be very messy with personal beefs, not want to mess with each other. But obviously, if we trying to do good for the people, we need to work together, right? So we have to learn how to put our beefs aside. And one of the biggest things I think that Brandon Johnson has accomplished in that campaign is somehow getting the organizing and activist community in Chicago, for the most part, to come together. That is a miracle, okay? That is a miracle. And so that just goes to show his collective coalition building power, just that by itself. It's like the Avengers coming together. I don't, I'm young, so I'm going to use Marvel movies and superhero references sometimes. But I don't know if y'all seen the Avengers. But like when Thanos, the bad guy, he snapped his finger when he got all the jewels, he was able to snap away Black Panther and Wakanda into another realm. Spider-Man was in another realm. All these different superheroes in another realm. It was only Captain America standing before this big army of Thanos and the bad guys, right? But then Doctor Strange, who has the power to like, use portals and stuff, he brought back all of the people. The Black Panther and Wakanda, Spider-Man came back, Ant-Man came back. It was like this big moment in the movie of Avengers, The Last Stand. And that's how it is right now with the organizing community. Like we all standing together now, and that thing is powerful. And I've never seen that. I've never seen that. And I hear somebody saying it here at Echo. I'm hoping it's because it's not too loud in the speaker. We tried to turn it up, y'all, without the echo. I might have to
I can fix it.
you can
Hold
fix
on.
it. Thanks y'all
Just
for letting us know about the sound too, because we
okay.
can't necessarily
Okay.
hear what y'all hear.
How that sound?
How's this, y'all, when I'm talking and when Martin's talking? Is the echo gone? Somebody comment?
Let's see.
It's good. It's good now.
Okay.
Okay.
Echo might be there. Don't
Yeah.
worry about it.
But yeah, so that's how I feel about this moment. Um and so we just really I think we're in a pivotal moment, Martin. But yeah, what you want to talk about?
Brandon Johnson.
Brandon Johnson. And I want to say to all, they said they hear echo when you talk, Martin. So that's probably because of
Yeah.
my volume. But
Well,
let
I'm
me
not gonna be talking a lot anyway. They're gonna be hearing from you, so don't worry about
okay,
me.
hold on
Go
one
ahead.
second. Somebody said no echo. Hold on. I'm trying to do a whole bunch of stuff at one time.
We got a call online too. If you want to
We
take a
have a
caller.
caller already.
Yeah,
Ooh, bring
Miss,
him on.
that's Mr. Marcus, the photographer. You want to talk, Marcus? Go ahead, Marcus.
Yeah. Um, Basically, I was just listening to her tell you Um, do you think that it was ever a movement here in Chicago?
You asking me or you asking Erica?
That's my question.
You asking you, Erica, hopefully.
Yeah. So, like I said, for my generation, we were not. Most of us were not even alive when Harold Washington first ran for mayor of Chicago. So we didn't get to like live in that. But the one thing that we do have the privilege of as young people is studying history. I'm a big history buff, probably because I'm young and because I personally believe that history is like a blueprint, particularly from our revolutionary ancestors. If we're trying to do any good work out here, ain't no need to reinvent the wheel
Mm-hmm.
when there's people and revolutionary ancestors who literally left a blueprint in their blood. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel. So for me, it's Fred Hampton, Chairman Fred Hampton of the Chicago Black Panthers. He left a huge blueprint in his blood. Chairman Fred Hampton was murdered at the age of 21. That's super young. But when you can't barely hear me, somebody said.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. They can hear you. Go ahead. I'll
Okay,
turn it.
so I'll speak up a little bit.
I can hear you.
Can y'all hear me now? I'm speaking
I
up a
hear
little
you.
bit.
Go ahead. Go
But
ahead.
Chairman Fred Hampton of the
I hear
Black
you,
Panthers in Chicago, he accomplished at such a young age something that was unprecedented at the time, which is what made him a target by the FBI. And that was the fact that he brought together a rainbow coalition, right? He was a chairman of the Black Panthers. Can't get no more pro-black than that. Everybody talking about being pro-black, can't get no more pro-black than the Black Panthers of the 60s. Come on now. But Chairman Fred then went over
Mm-hmm.
to the Latino community with the Young Lords, which was a group of Latino gang members who got so sick of the conditions going on in their communities and the disinvestment that they took over churches. Listen to this, y'all. Listen to how radical this was. The Latino Young Lords gang members took over churches, locked themselves in there, and refused to come out and refused to relinquish the churches until they stopped taking the people's money without doing anything for the community. That's radical as heck. And Fred Hampton heard about what them Latino gang members was doing, and he was like, I need to meet with them because they obviously mad about some of the same stuff we mad at. And then the Young Lords, the Latinos joined him, right? But then there was a group of white people from down south who had the poorest of the poor white people who had migrated to Chicago, and they mostly colonized in Uptown. And they called themselves the Young Patriots, a bunch of white rednecks from down south, right? They had Confederate
Mm-hmm.
flags and everything because they ain't know no better. But they was being ostracized by their own white people because they was poor and hillbillies. They called it hillbilly Harlem. They was getting beat more by the police than the other white people. They was living in rat-infested buildings more than the other rich white people. And Fred Hampton heard about their circumstance and met with them too. And some of the Black Panthers, they walked up in there with them Confederate flags and was like, "Are you serious, Fred?" But he ended up meeting with them and getting something that was a commonality. And of course, they addressed the whole Confederate flag thing. They addressed some things, and the Young Lords listen. I'm sorry, the Young Patriots listen. So they had a black, brown, and white coalition, the first rainbow coalition. And they went before the city of Chicago to demand the better conditions for all of us. And it was when Fred Hampton, when Chairman Fred did that, his death notice got signed by the United States government, because that right there is unstoppable. And that was a youth movement. All those was young people. So we got to understand that there is power in coming together. So to answer your question about has there ever been a movement in Chicago, I believe the movement, the blueprint of a multiracial movement started in Chicago by a 21-year-old young man who was executed by the Chicago police, who some of their sons and their grandsons still in the Chicago Police Department to this day. That's what I believe.
Good question. Good.
What do you think? What do you think it would take to stop what's going on right now? Well, we're seeing racism it doesn't surprise me because I'm quite sure you were taught in school that Harold Washington died of a heart attack.
I know that ain't
Martin
true.
can attest to this. Some of us believe that he was murdered so that Daley could get put in office. They don't talk about Chicago's second mayor, Sawyer, Eugene Sawyer, who only served a short term and they held a special election to put Daley in office. And so people are blaming the conditions of the city today on one person who is current mayor, Lori Lightfoot. But a lot of the conditions that we're dealing with right now came from the Daley administration. Daley's father, there's a book called America's Pharaoh.
Yeah, and
America's
and
Pharaoh.
honestly,
And it
I
deals
based
with
on the way
Daley.
that things work, whenever there's a black person in particular doing any good, in this country, whether it's Dr. King, whether it was Malcolm X, whether it was Fred Hampton, they always get murdered. They get murdered. Okay. Nowadays, it's kind of changed. It's like evolved where they don't really pull a trigger on you with a bullet. They assassinate your character. You know, like they kill your character, they kill your name nowadays, right? But back in the day when it was
Yeah.
more like, you know, just straight up, they just shot you, you know, or killed you or poisoned you. And I personally, and I think most of the young people today who read that history, we don't buy that crap that Harold Washington just suddenly had a heart attack. We don't buy that crap. We believe, because from my understanding from the history, he was given a cup of coffee, and right after he had
Yep.
his cup of coffee, he passed away. So I personally don't believe that he died of natural causes, and I don't think back then they did the proper investigation or autopsies or toxicology. I don't know if toxicology reports existed back then like it do today, to even discover if there was any toxins in his system. But I personally don't believe that man died of no natural causes. He died right after being delivered a cup of coffee. And that's why any mayor that's really doing anything good, especially if they black, don't let nobody bring you nothing. Don't let nobody bring you nothing to drink, nothing to eat. You know what I'm saying? Like, get it yourself, okay? Get it yourself, because they be trying it. But as far as blaming this on just one mayor, absolutely, this has been systemic from the dailies to all of that. And one of the things that I think allowed the dailies to take power from my, and Martin, you can correct me if I'm wrong because you may know more than me about this. What allowed the dailies to take power was that original Harold Washington coalition, when Harold died, started getting divided. Started getting divided.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're
And
correct.
that's exactly
They broke
how
up
Daley
real
took
quick.
power.
That's it. That's
It's
it.
an old tactic that some people are still trying to use right now with Vallis, is to divide us. And that's why, and you know, me and Martin, we don't always agree on everything, but the one thing I appreciate about you, Martin, is that you allow for those perspectives, right? Especially for my generation who has a different experience, right? Like, I'm about to say something to the older folks that's really super pro black.
Make me cry out here. I'm about to cry. So I got
I'm about to say something to the older folks that's super pro black that might blow y'all mind. I hope it don't offend you. But let me tell y'all something. And my young people, please chime in the chat or call in to back me up on this. Let me tell y'all something about my generation. We don't have a problem with immigrants, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to break the news to y'all. That's our friends. That's the people we grew up with. Okay. When y'all start talking about this, like, oh, the immigrants, close the borders, y'all sound like out of touch old people to us. How you gonna close the borders on people that's already our friends? Like, it don't work like that for our generation, you know? And so we don't fear like people in that way. We don't see them as competition as much as we see them as co-battlers in this fight for equality. Now, that being said, our parents, on the other hand, their parents, some of their Latino parents and immigrant parents, be racist as hell. And they'll be the first ones to admit it to you, who are immigrant children. They'll be like, my parents don't like black people. Because they'll tell you straight up. So it's not our generation, it's the older generation that's fighting amongst each other for like seats of power. Whereas y'all don't realize that while y'all was busy fighting for a seat at the table, your children were eating at the table together. and now we friends. So we not buying that crap.
Mm. Mm. Wow.
So do you think with that mindset today that America is gonna racism will eventually fade out?
I wouldn't say racism is going to fade out. See, racism is an evil. And this whole idea that we just need to wait for all the old racist people to die is not true. Because what happens is as young people, there's another cohort of our generation who is mostly white kids, and it's not as many as there are of us who don't think this way, but they exist, who have been indoctrinated by their families, and they have now taken the baton of white supremacy. So just because a white person is young don't necessarily mean that they have not taken the baton of white supremacy because they've been surrounded by it. The only other option that young white kids have is to almost be like a black sheep of their family to join us, which many do. And y'all call them the white progressive kids, but like they basically don't even fit in at Thanksgiving dinner just because they willing to join us, like, and not deal with that racist crap that they family. But there are some white kids and even some black and brown kids. I know there's somebody on this live that told me to unblock them Aviaire, right? He's about my age and he's black, but he adopts a lot of the Republican conservative Trumper type narratives as a young black man, because every generation sometimes has those few young folks who adopt the baton. They take the baton of the old and they run with it. So just because you have a young face don't always mean that you stand for the progress, right? So we have our own enemies in the camp, so to speak, or like people in the camp of young people who are somewhat like trying to perpetuate the old ways. So when you say will it fade away? No, it's a real fight that we have to address. Now, how we fight, right, is how we allow ourselves to address these things, right? Which I'll talk more about. But Martin, what did you gonna say? And don't say, "Oh, please, Aviaire," because go ahead and spout whatever you want to spout, and the facts over feeling stuff. And I got so much to say, Martin. But go ahead.
You got plenty of time. Listen, I want to ask you a question. So, how you guys feel about the alphabet community? So tell us about the trans community, the trans woman. Tell us how the young people feel about that. So I want to know that too as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. And anybody on here who's young and is hearing this, especially my trans folks, gay folks, LGBTQ, please chime in, please call in. But I'll tell you this, like, it's almost the same as the immigrants. Like, that's our friends. That's people we grew up with. It's not so ostracizing to us. It's not threatening to us, because the reason it's not threatening to us as much is because we grew up, like me, for example. I'm straight. This could be, I'm not LGBTQ, I'm not transgender or anything. But when you grow up with people who are, what happens is that you kind of get a light bulb, right? Because as y'all know, it's a little more normal in our generation than it was in previous generations. Right. And you get this light bulb moment when you straight in this generation, which is like, wow, I never got made gay. I know gay people. My friends are gay people. The cartoons are changing. The TV shows are changing. But somehow I stayed straight, lo and behold.
Okay.
And you kind of get this light bulb that is not an infectious disease. That like you are who you are. Because there's not a TV show I could have watched. There's not a song I could have sung. There's not a party I could have went to that would have changed the fact that I like men.
Okay.
And you start to kind of realize it's not an infection. These people just are, those folks are who they are, and they deserve humanity and they deserve to be embraced. And at the end of the day, the fact that the same people who are trying to demean them come from the same group of people who try to demean Black people. But what it is they understand that the LGBTQ issue is something that might gain Black people. So they use that. They use that prejudice to gain our favor on their side when the rest of what they believe in is completely anti-black. It's a trick.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let me hold up, Marcus. I got another caller. 1, 2, 3. You got a question for the young lady? 1, 2, 3.
One, two, three.
I don't, Martin.
Hello?
I was just enjoying our conversation.
Okay,
man.
just hold up. Okay.
Let it rock out.
All right.
She
Come
go
on.
ahead.
Come on. I know who you are, 917. Come on. You got a question.
Yeah. Hi. Hi, Martin.
Hey, how you
Hi,
doing?
Martin. It's me, your favorite cheerleader
Oh,
leader,
Lord.
and I want to.
Tiffany. Hey,
Good,
Tiffany.
good, good. How are you? And I prayed for you today. I prayed for you.
Thank you.
How are you, hon? And I
Good.
prayed for you today. I
Okay.
did, Martin. True
Okay.
story. Even married, I'm still allowed to pray for you. Okay.
Okay.
And then another thing is I'm asking Marcus or anybody else to please not cut off speaking to Erica or Martin at all.
Oh,
It's why I
okay,
get
Tiffany.
upset when I come on this
Tiffany.
phone line.
I know we know
It's
you go
rude.
Tiffany.
It's selfish.
Hold
and
on,
I'm gonna-
Tiffany. Tiffany, we know you throw a temp trash, okay? People be getting on me about you because they think me and you got something going on. I don't know why, but I'm just an easygoing person. But okay, no one's going to interrupt you. Go ahead and ask your questions. I'll handle it. Let me
We're
handle
listening,
it.
Tiffany.
Go ahead, Tiffany. She's listening. Go ahead, Tiffany. Ask your
Okay.
question.
Hi, Erica. And then Martin, I want to stay on the phone line. Please
Okay.
do not take me off the phone
Okay. As
line.
long as you don't be cussing and interrupting.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Go ahead.
no. As long as the other callers respect me, you,
Tiffany,
and Erica.
Tiffany, you're
It's a long
good.
time.
You're
Just go,
good,
girl.
Tiffany.
Just
Oh my
go.
God,
Talk to
bro.
Erica.
Okay.
Come on. Go.
See, there go the haters.
The-
Okay, Erica,
Yes, I'm
you're
listening.
so intelligent. You're so intelligent.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're very unbiased. You're knowledgeable, like I am, and we have a lot of things in common when we speak about our people. I am mixed, which is great. As far as the gay stuff, yes, our people need to realize it's 2023. We're not living in the 60s, 50s, 40s, because these people are still alive. We're not in the 70s, 80s, or 90s anymore. So our people have to learn to evolve. A lot of people have evolved with technology, right? A lot of people have evolved in becoming greater than their parents have, right? That's evolving. Where it seems as us, our generational wealth isn't. It's really generational curse, right? That's what I call it, right? So I am legal to carry a gun, and I have 2 residencies. One of them is here in Chicago, so I am legal to carry a strap. And because of that, now I'm going to get to my point. I don't believe anymore, as I would always advocate for and preach about. I don't think that we can ever stop our females, young, whatever it may, to continue to have babies without a husband. It's just 2 conditions. That's our generational curse. I don't think that we can redirect the minds of many. That's our generational curse. Now, the little tiny itty bitty babies that are born, yes, we have a chance with them. By the time they're about 6 years old, you're going to start struggling, right? So the only thing that I think might be left for the race is guns, right? So what white folks tend to do, and it's a great thing, right, is when there's school shootings, right, they go and they protest, they go to Congress, and they come in unity, right? And they get laws changed. You'll often hear laws named after their children, right? Or Gifford's Law, if you remember that in Arizona when she got killed. Or you see what I'm saying? Amber, right? You see where I'm going with this? I think that no one in this America, even at our age, will ever take us serious instead we start doing what the white folks do. I'm getting to it, Martin. I like
Please,
her.
come on now.
I like her,
Tiffany,
Martin. She's
Tiffany,
smart.
you got to ask a question. I got other people waiting to ask a question.
These comments are cracking me up. These
Okay.
man, these comments, y'all funny.
Yeah,
I
they're
can't.
just dumb, stupid. They just don't read. They don't read. They're dumb, stupid, and cold. They don't read. It's a true story. Just look at everybody. Most people that oppose, they won't even make sure they kids. That's our generational curse. It's our except the people that are married with children. It's very different. It's very different. And we have lost religion as a people. And I know our black history very well, especially the great things about our black history. And I'm talking going back 450 years. I'm not talking about 60s, 70s. I'm talking before the late 50s. But anyways,
Tiffany.
I believe the only way that we'll ever, I'm getting to it, Martin. I
Tiffany,
like
come on.
her.
Hold on,
I want
Tiffany.
to talk.
No, no, no.
Okay,
Hold
okay,
on, Tiffany.
okay.
Hold on.
Yes, sir. I'm
Listen,
sorry.
you've been talking
Okay.
for
Sydney,
you have not
Sydney,
got the
stop
question.
it.
Tiffany, get
I'm
to the question,
sorry.
please.
I'm sorry,
We got
Erica.
other people.
Okay, you know where I'm going with this, Erica? Okay,
Yeah,
you know where
I
I'm
hear
going with
you.
this, Erica, as
Do you
far as
want me to
you'll never be
respond
taken
to?
serious.
Do you
Every
want me to respond?
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Okay, so you said a lot. But I will comment on this idea about black marriages and things like that. One of the issues with I believe that I've seen just in my own political work, political education, the way that we see ourselves as black people tends to lack depth. And what I mean by that is that we tend to look at what's going on now without tracking it to how we got here. And the reason why that's a problem is if we don't track how we got here, the only logical conclusion is that there's just something wrong with black people, which is what white supremacists believe, is that we are just morally inferior, we are just intellectually inferior, and we are just inherently inferior human beings who can't get right. That's what white supremacists believe about us. But when you actually look at the history, it makes you realize that there ain't nothing inferior about us. But almost every ill we see in the black community, from the fatherless homes to the violence to the what is it called, finessing, to everything, right? It's steeped in a historical reason. Let me talk about fatherless homes, for example. We talk about not having fathers in homes, but we don't think about the fact that for 400 years, black men were forced to breed with multiple black women and not raise those children and move on to the next plantation. Breed, move on. Breed, move on. For generations. You do not do that to a people for 400 years and then be shocked when their grandchildren and their children breed and move on. Breed and move on. Breed and move on. But that was caused. We didn't come in Africa like that. We had tribes. We had family units. We didn't come like that. That's not the package we came in. That was done to us. And it takes, if you grow a tree and you take a stick and you bend the tree, guess what direction that tree gonna grow? Crooked. If you get it at a seedling, if you get it early. Now imagine if you do that for 400 years straight, right? And yeah, I see the comment about we have multiple wives in Africa. We did, but guess what? We didn't do in Africa: abandon our children. We didn't abandon our children. Our children were in our tribe. There's an African proverb actually that explains what's going on in our hoods right now when it comes to the violence and the carjackings. And that African proverb says, "A child who is not embraced by the village will burn the village down just to feel its warmth."
Say that again.
I'll say it again. The African proverb says, "A child who is not embraced by the village will burn the village down just to feel its warmth." That comes from our culture. That proverb and that wisdom comes from our culture. When we reject children as throwaways and lost causes, and we act like we don't even want to see them, speak to them, invest in them, and throw them in a cage, they will burn this thing down just to feel the warmth of our attention, of our chagrins, of our disapproval, of our how look at these kids and what they doing. Because that's the most attention they ever get from us.
Mm.
That's an
Erica,
African
Erica.
proverb.
Erica, how old are you?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm in the 30s. I'm in my early 30s.
Oh, you ain't no young buck. Well, you young enough. All right, let me go
Okay,
to the
I'm
next
30.
call. Let me
I'm
go
30.
Okay, hold on, Tiff. I need to.
Well, I want her to answer the question, please,
no,
Martin.
listen,
I want her
Tiffany,
to answer the question
you're
about
not running
guns.
nothing here, Tiffany. Don't give me no problem now, because you know what I do to you. So I'm going to the next one. I'm gonna let you stay on the panel, but I have to go to other people. They're calling too. Okay. You took 5 minutes answering the question. All right. 423. You're the next caller. 423 area code. Come on. Let's go. 423. Hey, caller. Caller. 423. Tiffany has scared you. 423. 3908, caller. Last 4 digits of your phone number, 3908. Y'all let Tiffany intimidate y'all. Come on now. You want to talk? Come on. All right.
I got a question if they don't say nothing more.
Go ahead, 123, because you haven't said it. Come on.
My question to the young lady is, why is it that the older generation and the younger generation are so divided amongst Black people?
That's a great question. Why are we so divided? I think it's because we have completely different experiences that we don't really talk about often, like on this show. Like what Martin is doing right now is rare. It's very rare that the younger generation, and I got folks on this live that's even younger than me. Like I actually mentor middle schoolers because like they're my generation that I feel responsible for, you know, like the 11-year-olds and 10-year-olds and like those young ones. But like the millennials, which I'm a millennial, Gen X right now are all in their 40s, right? And getting in their 50s. And then you got the older, even older than that. But millennials and Gen Z, which is like the 20 somethings, the 19-year-olds, even younger, we have a different life experience. We are the generation who was the first generation to have cell phones as a normal thing, right? In high school and in school. We was the first generation to have internet as a super normal part of life, access to tons and tons of information, whether that information was good or bad. And our parents couldn't keep up, to be honest. I need some young folks to chime in. Millennials, Gen Z, chime in right now. When you first got the internet, when you first got your cell phone, be honest. Was most of y'all parents equipped to keep up with what you knew how to do on them phones and computers?
No.
At all.
No.
At all.
Okay.
So we kind of run this thing when it comes to technology. Our parents were not equipped to supervise us because they didn't even know how to use most of it. We knew how to use it. So they didn't know what we was watching, listening to, or doing. Now, nowadays, with millennials who are now having children, especially if you had kids really, really young as a millennial, your baby might be like 12 right now. If you had kids really young as a millennial and they got a cell phone, and because you're a millennial, you know a little better than your parents did. You know how to get that phone and put the parental blocks on it. You know how to get that phone and be like, you can't watch this. Because we just kind of know more. But our parents didn't know no better. We was on AOL. We was on the chat. We was on LimeWire downloading illegal music and putting viruses on the computer. We were running this thing and getting so much information and downloads and access to everything you want to know, while our parents had no way of controlling it.
You got another caller, Erica.
Okay.
Area code 616. You're live, uncut, unedited. Caller. What's up with these people? They just want to chime in. Y'all let Tiffany scare y'all? 616. Hello? Erica, have some of your people to call in, your younger people to call
Come
in.
on, call in, y'all, my peoples. I
The
see y'all,
number,
some of
let me
y'all
help
on
them
here.
out.
Call. Don't
The,
be
num-
scared. Call the
the
number.
numbers. I'm not going to bite y'all, I promise you.
Yeah, y'all
872
will get in. Trust me. It's not like them shows where you can't get in.
299 This Erica, she running this. Not Tiffany. Erica is running this. 299, 872 299 0808. 616, you want to talk? Okay, Marcus, what you got for us, man? You always have
Hello?
some. 616?
I
Hold
would
on, hold on, hold on,
ask for this
Marcus.
question.
Hold on, I got 616. Come on, 616. Come on. Come on, 616.
Hey, is that me?
Yes, that is you. You're live on
Hey, hi.
You with Erica.
That sounds like
Hey,
Miriam.
what's up? Hi.
Hey.
Yes,
What's up,
me. What's going
Miriam?
on? So, yes, thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much for holding this conversation and just talking about like the realness that you bring, Erica. Thank you. And yeah, I just have a question for you, Erica. So like you brought up something that just resonated with me a lot, and that's like that you mentioned how like organizing and activists are as messy as like Chicago politics. And as an organizer, like that is so true. It is so true because I feel like at the end of the day, like I, as an organizer, out here like trying really hard to advocate not only for my needs, but like the needs of my neighbors and my communities. And at the same time, there's always like, I don't know, there's always that one organizer, there's always that one leader. It's just messy. So like as an organizer yourself, like how do you envision us as organizers, as a community, like Brandon, like building this movement, like how can we like move forward together? One, as organizers, we're like faced with just I don't know. I'm just looking for advice, like how to move forward together when we're like all divided and just separated, and seeing Brandon bringing us together, like how, like just I just want to hear you like inspire me because you're just so inspiring, Erica. And just like, what do you think? What do you think is like something that can bring us organizers together now that Brandon is like out here like building coalitions with like Black and Brown people and just across communities?
Absolutely. That's an awesome question, Miriam. And real quick, y'all, I want to big up Miriam real quick. Miriam, I got to big you up real quick. Miriam is a young mama just like me, out here doing the dang thing. We've been going to local community colleges and speaking directly to other young people about why is y'all not voting? Like, what's the problem, right? We even have recorded some of their responses so we could collect data to actually get to the bottom of why young people are not voting the way we should. And we are actually going to be hitting all of the community colleges that have early voting locations as a whole team. There's a whole team of us that represent multiple college locations. And we are going to be hitting up all those locations during early voting, having conversations with students, directing them to the polls. Like, we not out here playing, okay? And the fact, and Miriam is such a dope person for being a part of this. So big ups to Miriam. Put some hand claps in the chat for Miriam, y'all. Hand clap. So thank you, Ryan. I love the sound effect. And so Miriam, that's a great question. And like, so this is the live, uncut, unedited show. So I'm gonna tell the truth and shame the devil.
Tell the truth and shame the devil.
Yes. And like, Miriam, let's talk about some stuff real quick that many who don't understand the organizing world may not know. The organizing world is somewhat different than the activist world, because like there's a difference, believe it or not, between an activist and an organizer. Now, don't get me wrong, we're like cousins, right? We have some similarities, but it's not exactly the same. So activists, when you're just a pure activist, you're more at press conferences, you're on the mic, you're on the camera, right? Most of your work happens on camera when you're an activist. But an organizer, we do what you call the unsexy work. Not that we don't sometimes get on camera. I'm on camera right now, right? So
Right.
It's not that activists can't also be organizers, and it's not that organizers can't be also activists. Some of the most famous people we know, like Dr. King, Malcolm X, those people, they were activists and organizers, right? That's why they were so powerful. So we have speeches from them. We have video and camera footage of them, thank goodness, right? But organizers, we do the unsexy work. We do the stuff that is not televised. We be on the ground, we be making phone calls, we be making flyers, we be out here just doing stuff that's like not gonna get recorded most of the time because it needs to be done, right? And sometimes we're the ones recording, right? And we're not being recorded. But the thing about the organizing community in Chicago is that it exemplifies a lot of the toxicity in the politics of Chicago. See, Chicago is a gang city, from Al Capone to like the different gang sets. It's a gang city. It just is. Okay, y'all, like Chicago, come on now. We just need to accept the fact we a gangsta city. Okay, like that's just what it is. But unfortunately that gangsta spirit, which can be for good because some gangs actually do good things, or even was originally, like, I think the P Stones, was it, Martin?
Black P Stones, yeah.
Yeah, the P Stones. Some gangs started out originally for good reasons, like to organize Black power against white supremacist Irish groups and other groups who was assaulting our people. So Black people formed gangs to protect the people, you know? So all gangs ain't bad, right?
Right.
But at the same time, the Chicago gang culture has spilled into the nonprofit industry. I literally have seen nonprofits in Chicago fight over who gonna feed the homeless on a block. One group was out there feeding them, and another group jumped out the vans talking about this is our corner. Like what?
Mm.
Like what kind of gang? Like just feed the people, right? Just feed the people. And the same thing with organizing, a competition mindset of who gets the credit, who name gets put on the idea, you know, all of that. And to be honest with y'all, and I know somebody called me a socialist earlier. I'm not a socialist, I'm a revolutionary, so just get it right. Like Fred Hampton said, I am a revolutionary, and he made the whole crowd say, I am a revolutionary. And it's not about socialism or any titles like that for me. Because for me, the system that's going to work best for this country and best for this world, to me, has not even been invented yet. And we need to take all of the good and all of the parts of the systems that we understand. And I don't believe that system even has a name yet. But I believe we can learn from a lot of things, right? So I don't label myself a socialist. I don't label myself a communist. I'm definitely not no dang capitalist. But this is the thing that you know, we can learn from. But when it comes to capitalism, why capitalism is so toxic is it teaches competition.
You'll have to explain what the terms mean, Erica.
I'm sorry?
Can you explain what the three terms mean? Because a lot of people, I apologize to interrupt, but a lot of people do not know what those three terms are.
Oh, okay.
Can you explain
So,
to
you
them,
know,
please? Because they
these
get
are basically,
please.
okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Tiffany. These are basically economic terms.
You're welcome. Hon.
And just so you guys know, I'm a college graduate. I did graduate. I graduated from Roosevelt University right here in Chicago with honors. So that's how I know a lot of the things that I know. And I really dedicated myself to my studies. And like communism, socialism, capitalism are all basically just ways that people have conceived to run an economy. But economies affect people's lives, basically. So socialism is like the social sharing of things. Communism is about the complete of the complete giving of equality to everyone, right? And then capitalism is about competition, and that's a very general overview, y'all. It's deeper than that, but I'm just giving y'all an overview. But capitalism is the worst of the worst. The reason why capitalism is the worst of the worst is because
Can I say
capitalism.
something? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, capitalism is what brought our people as Black people to this shore as slaves. The idea that as long as you make money, it's okay. That's capitalism. As long as you make a profit, it's okay. That's capitalism. And capitalism is about competing as a way to somehow promote better ideas. That's the excuse capitalists use. Like, well, if we all compete, the best ideas will rise to the top. No, no, no. The best, the best fraud artists will rise to the top. The best con artists will rise to the top. The best people that know how to manipulate the system will rise to the top. The best people that know how to cut throats will rise to the top. The best people that know how to exploit human beings will rise to the top. And that's what capitalism don't want to talk about. But unfortunately, capitalism is a bedrock of America because slavery is a bedrock of America. They didn't care about the fact they was whipping us and raping us and beating us as long as they made money. That's capitalism. And it's the bedrock of America. And unfortunately, it's infused itself into all manners of America, from the nonprofits to the organizing world to the activist world. This sense of competition, being on the top, making yourself the top head honcho, the winner, even if other people lose, that don't deserve to lose, right? And that's capitalism. And unfortunately, that has found its way into the organizing world, competing against each other for grants, for example. And we call that the nonprofit industrial complex. I'm about to get deep with y'all tonight. The nonprofit industrial complex, which is basically how we get our money as nonprofits and organizations, is that we have to compete for grants. But what people don't talk about is, where do these grants come from? These grants are funded by the wealthiest people in the country as tax deductible donations. The wealthy use nonprofits as tax havens to make sure that they can deduct that money back on their taxes and never spend a dime. But guess what else it allows them to do? When you are the premier donor to a nonprofit and a grant, right? You get to decide the rules that the person who receives the grant has to follow. Meaning you can put rules saying you're not allowed to talk about this. You're not allowed to talk about Black. You're not allowed to talk about police. You're not allowed to talk about gay people. You're not, whatever your proclivities are as that rich person. As the grant provider, you set the rules of what the organization who receives the grant is allowed to do and is not allowed to do. Now, why is that a conflict of interest? Because the very organizations that receive the grants are supposed to be the organizations fighting their behinds. It's slick. And that's why it's called the nonprofit industrial complex. And they get all that money back through our taxes. We are subsidizing. You think your tax refund, you waiting on your tax refund? You think your tax refund is dope? Wait till you see rich people's tax refund. It's bananas.
Marcus, go ahead.
Can I
let Marcus in? I'll let you
Can
go.
I insert?
Tiffany, okay. When Marcus did, you can go. Okay, go, Marcus. Marcus, it might be a little different what you talk about, but go ahead.
I want to ask you a different question here. What is your take with the drill music? The drill music, the young people acting out what they see these drill rappers are doing in the videos and so on, and it's becoming a reality on the streets of these cities across the country, not just in Scott.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I really want to touch on that because I do a lot with music. But before I do that, there's a comment in the chat that says, from Andromeda 92. It says, so why are we encouraging young Black entrepreneurs to start their own business if we are stating we should wage war against capitalism? That's a great question, Andromeda 92, and I would like to address it, and then we can get to the drill music. That whole entrepreneurial mindset thing based in capitalism is a trap. And the reason why it's a trap is because it is taught based on the same ideas of the exploitative white supremacists who started it, who enslaved us and exploited us. And what I mean by that is when a Black young person is taught to be an entrepreneur, they are taught to do it the way the white folks do it, to become very rich. And the way you become very rich is that you take advantage of the people who help make you rich, aka the workers. It means that you fight in government to pay the lowest wages possible so you can make the highest profit possible and buy 3 yachts instead of one. It means that you deny them health
Can I
care
dummy it
coverage
down?
because
Can I
it's going to
dummy it
take.
down?
Don't cut her off, please. Don't do that, Tiffany. Thank you. Go ahead,
It
Eric.
means that you're going to need to deny them health care coverage because that's going to come out of your CEO coffers, right? And you're not going to be able to be as rich as Jeff Bezos, right? If you give health care to every single worker, or if you raise the wages of every single worker to a adequate wage. It's a capitalist mindset of the top taking the lion's share of the profits. However, right, here's the thing, the workers, the richer you get, it's no way in the world you can get that rich without the labor of other people. It's just impossible because no one man, Jeff Bezos don't pack all them Amazon boxes. Jeff Bezos don't confirm all them Amazon orders. It's the workers that do that. They are making him rich. It's the same plantation slavery model of capitalism in its original form, but except slavery is now illegal. So you just got to do like slavery junior. So you're going to pay as low as possible. Meanwhile, right? If Jeff Bezos, he's almost a trillionaire. I need y'all to take this in real quick. A trillionaire. That's the GDP of whole countries. This country. One man, a trillionaire, you can't spend that much money in 17 lifetimes. But check this out. If Jeff Bezos was willing to be a person who only had, let's say, $7 million net worth, do you know that every Amazon employee could make $100,000 a year?
Say that
If
again.
Jeff Bezos agreed to just have $7 million net worth, that's rich. That's still very rich. But see, greed, and think about this. Amazon warehouses are are typically put in communities that are suffering, that are poor, where people are desperate for jobs. Jeff Bezos has the power to create an entire workforce of Black and poor people that now make 6 figures if he wanted to. But he won't because of greed. That would uplift our communities tremendously, just like the Ford factories back in the day, where the owner of Ford said, "I don't want no worker who can't afford to buy a Ford." That used to be how it was back in the day, but it ain't like that no more.
All right, go to the drill music now because I got another caller.
Okay, now drill music. So, yeah. So, and I'm sorry, Monique, what are you saying that's false?
Okay, Monique, call in if you say that's false.
Yeah, call in if you have a rebuttal, please.
Yeah, call in, Monique, right now if it's
Please
false.
call
so
in
we
if
can
you
hear.
have a rebuttal because I would love to hear it.
I want to hear it too.
Can I
Because
do an
one thing I
in-person?
don't do is I do not
Okay.
defend
Hey,
billionaires.
Erica,
okay.
can you do it? Erica, can she do it? Tiffany says, can she say something? Act,
Sure, go
it's
ahead,
on you.
Tiffany.
It's on
And
you.
I'm gonna
Erica.
get to the drill music right after this because I promised I would.
Okay. Do you want Tiffany to say something right now?
So I'm on.
Erica, I'm leaving it up to you. Your call.
Monique says no. Monique, didn't you say you wanted to say something? Call in.
Yeah. Call in, Monique.
Yeah. Let me get to the drill music, Tiffany, please, if that's okay.
Okay.
So the drill music thing, right? My older brother, he's like 10 years older than me, and he was in the rap game when rap like kind of was like getting hot and starting and stuff, the Tupac, Biggie era, all that. So I grew up kind of in the studio because he had to babysit me, and I've been around rappers and I know how that goes, and I've seen how rap has evolved. But the thing that I think we need to understand is that what we are seeing is that art and music has always been a way for people to tell their stories. It's all that's what art and music has always been, whether it's a love story through R&B, whether it's a struggle story like the music back in the 70s with Marvin Gaye and like all of them who used to talk about the struggle. Music and art has always been a way to tell our stories. The problem is that we are now offended that the stories that are being told is what's actually happening out here. It's like these young people that's doing drill music are not talking about stuff that ain't actually happening. You know, because one of the things about the hip hop, there's like a rule in hip hop that if you start talking all hard and tough and people find out you ain't really from that life, you kind of lose your credibility. Like if you're talking all hard and tough about all of the, you know, that's what happened to Ja Rule. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that rapper Ja Rule, but he got kind of, his career kind of got ended by 50 Cent, if y'all know who 50 Cent is, because 50 Cent blasted the fact that he grew up a Jehovah's Witness. And by the way, I grew up a Jehovah's Witness too, but I'm not one no more. But you know, Jehovah's Witnesses are considered pretty corny, you know, like you're not scary. So so once they found out he used to be a Jehovah's Witness and he was talking all this hard stuff, his career kind of got ended ever since then. So there's like a rule in rap that you better be about what you're talking about or you're going to lose your credibility. So we got to understand a lot of this music is talking about what's actually happening. And the truth is, if we want to change the stories that's being told, then we need to change the circumstances of the stories that's being told. And so that's not the story that needs to be told anymore, right? Now, that being said, do I feel like the music has no responsibility? No, I don't believe that. I believe that musicians and artists have a responsibility to persuade the culture. Music and art has always been one of the most persuasive parts of revolution, from the civil rights movement to like every other movement. It was the music that did something to you. It was, whether it was them singing outside in the 50s, or whether it was Marvin Gaye, or whether it was what's the name of that band, Martin, that says war, huh? What is it good for? Absolutely
I
nothing.
know the name of it.
Edwin Starr.
Edwin Starr, there you go. So like that type of stuff, musicians have the power to influence a generation. So I do not take all the responsibility off of musicians. I believe musicians have a huge tool and weapon to influence a generation in a different direction, and they are absolutely responsible for using. So I'm not gonna give them a pass. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to the young ones out here doing this drug that don't know no better, and again, this is back to capitalism. Capitalism has destroyed the music industry and the rap industry. It's all about what can make you money, no matter who it harms. That's capitalism at its core. Capitalism at its core is what's gonna make the money, and to hell with who it hurt.
We got another caller.
And that's happened to music as well.
You got 6970 caller. You're next, live on the cut, unedited. Come on, caller.
What's up, Martin G. Johnson? Can you guys?
Oh, that's my partner. That's my partner, Vera Giles. No, what's up, partner? What's going on, Vera?
Man, listen. I am enjoying the show. Had to call in, and first of all, man, this Erica, Erica is not playing with him. Erica, great job, young lady. Great job. You got me clapping like, yes, go on, lay it down. Go on,
I love it,
girl. Yeah, yes, and then right back at my partner. You know what, Martin?
Right.
You always bringing amazing content. So again, I wanted to just kind of come give you your flowers now, and I'm just listening in. So I'm gonna go on mute, and I'm done speaking.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. Okay, Monique sent Monique sent the rebuttal. I put it on the screen. There you go. Read it.
Amazon plants are not just positioned in deprived neighborhoods as a false statement, especially if we're referring to other states. And no, Monique, I'm definitely not saying that all the Amazon plants are in the disadvantaged neighborhoods. I'm definitely not saying that. So I just want to make sure I correct myself. So thank you for that correction. I'm not saying that that's all where they are. But what I'm saying is Amazon comes to cities like Chicago to try to negotiate to put plants in our most disadvantaged neighborhoods. So you get what I'm saying? And we act thirsty to get it, right? We act like, that's going to be a boom for the economy, right? But meanwhile, the whole model of Amazon is to pay those people as less as possible, make the work conditions as less invested in as possible, where they don't have heat in the winter, they don't have AC in the summer. That's why Amazon started to unionize for better conditions in other states, because they was getting treated so poorly. They didn't get enough bathroom breaks. They own this like really strict clock that, like, if you're 3 minutes late, I believe you get fired or something. It's like real strict type, like robot type work. And they started to complain, and they started to ask for better work conditions, and they did unionize in some of those plants. But the whole premise behind those bad work conditions and the low pay is about making a few shareholders and Jeff Bezos extremely wealthy off the labor of the many. And if they come into our hood while our aldermen and elected officials are going to act all thirsty for that deal, they would never challenge that system. They would never challenge the very system of the fact that Jeff Bezos can afford to pay every single Amazon worker 6 figures and still be rich. They'll never challenge that. They'll just take the crumbs, pay people low wages that still got to end up on food stamps, or work extreme overtime. And here's the other thing, right? Or you got to work extreme overtime to make ends meet. But what if you're a parent? That means you're not there to supervise your children. And then that means your unsupervised children are now jacking cars.
Okay. We're getting
It's a cycle, y'all, and it's steeped in capitalism. Capitalism is not our friend. I'm not saying we got to go like with one label, economic system, socialism, communism, what that. I'm not saying that. Like I said, I believe the system that's right for the world hasn't even been truly invented yet. I feel it hasn't even been named yet. But I feel like if we take a lesson and learn, we can figure this out together. But capitalism itself is what brought our people to these shores as slaves. And it ain't stopped being raggedy yet. It just has not stopped being raggedy yet. And we have been sold a bill of goods to believe that we gonna be the next Bill Gates. We gonna be the next rich person, to allow capitalism to run a damn muck in our communities.
Erica, I want to say something. Now, slavery is still legal in the prison system. So I want to say that. Yeah, I want to say that.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right about that.
So I know you know. I want to ask a question. What is your perspective of these politicians that's going on Paul Viola's side and Brandon Johnson's side? I want you to talk about both sides. I don't just want to whip on Paul, but I want you to say something about Brandon too as well. So what's the political game being played right now? That's what I want.
Yeah, that's great. And like I knew I was coming on the show today, so for some fuel for my fire, I watched the Maze Jackson show that was just on today. I know, because I needed to get fired up for what I wanted to say. And I was listening to some of the callers and their perspectives. It was after it aired, so I wasn't able to call in or anything. But I wanted to. One of the things about being an organizer is you have to be willing to sit through cringe-worthy commentary sometimes, because you need to know how the other side thinks. And you got to be willing to sit there with the pit of your stomach just churning sometimes. But listen, because that's how you actually can engage in true political battle, right? So I sat through hours of that show listening to the people calling in and their perspectives and all of that I completely disagree with for the most part, but it allowed me to learn a lot. I learned a lot.
So tell us some of the things that you learned.
Yeah, so one of the things is that right now with like the Paul Vallas campaign and the Brandon Johnson campaign, there is a I don't know if anybody has seen the polls that are going on with Brandon and Paul, but right now, from most of the recent polls I've seen, Brandon is actually ahead, but he's ahead by like 3%, 2%, 4%, and we still got a ways to go, but obviously that could change, so we got to do work if we want him to actually win, right? But it's a good sign, right? But those polls, the legitimate polls, if you like, I'm a social psychology major. That's what I graduated in college. So basically doing social research. So we have to crunch numbers sometimes and actually put together these things. So I kind of know how to read the footnotes. And if you actually, here's a pro tip, y'all. If it's a legitimate poll, they should always include a link that allows you to click on how they came to their numbers.
Oh, okay.
So always click on that link, y'all. Don't just read the poll. If it's legit, right? It should have a link that allows you to have a breakdown of how they came to that conclusion. And when you click on the link now, what you see is the racial breakdown of how many people they polled and how many of them were from different races and who they said they'd vote for and such and such. And what you'll see right now from those polls is something very interesting. You will see that about over 70 something percent, almost 80% of Black people are going for Brandon in this city. Like a tidal wave, like a tidal wave. So the Black folks that you see talking about Vallis, they like 10-15% of Black people in this city, to be honest, and they're feeling it. They're feeling their minority status right now, and that's why they act in a fool. Secondly, the Latino groups is a very interesting dynamic. They are either shown as highly supporting Vallis in some polls or almost equally split between Brandon and Vallis. Like they're not all the way on Brandon's side. And then the Asian American community is almost totally Vallis. I mean, I think it's like 70% of Asian folks is Vallis. Whereas the white people are majority Vallis, obviously, but there's a cohort, like a chunk. It's like a bigger chunk than the Latinos or the Asians of white people that are going for Brandon, right? So what does this show us? It shows us that right now, there is a battle in Chicago about what to do with the Negro.
Uh-oh. Preach now. That's where I'm going now. Come on, preach now.
That's what's happening.
Y'all
want to know what this current mayor's race is about? When you hear the word crime or any of that, in politics we call it a dog whistle. You know, we call it a dog whistle, meaning that it's a high pitched sound that you gotta have a certain ear to hear. So when you hear crime and all this stuff, and they're robbing the Latino street vendors and they're carjacking and it's never been this bad before. When white people say that, what they're actually saying is, what do we do with the Negro? Because I tell you this, when people say Chicago crime, ain't nobody imagining a white face, and ain't nobody imagining an elderly face. Period. So we can stop the codes and the games and just calling it crime. You're talking about young Black people. And right now, this election is about what to do with us. And that's why I'm encouraging my young folks to get out and vote. Our voting percentage was only 2% last election, and it cannot be this time. That's why we at these campuses. That's why we out here doing this work. Because when they say Chicago crime, they talking about us. And right now, the city of Chicago is voting on what to do with the Negro.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
I want to just say something.
Yep.
And Marcus, you can identify with this. And back in my day, they called it war on drugs, war on crime. Those are code words. You know, they was using. Now it's changed. I'm glad you educated us on that too. So, and it is like, like, give you an example. The other day, a white man took a Chicago police officer gun and discharged it. Now, you know, he didn't take a police officer gun and discharge it in the air. He probably shot at the police officer, but he lived to tell the story. They don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about that. You know, just like we had an officer that got killed, and it wasn't by the hands of another Black person. They don't want to talk about that. They have painted us as being criminals.
Yes.
And that's not true. It's
Yes.
a propaganda that they're
Just like they
Go ahead, Marcus.
just like they did during the Jim Crow era and slavery. They making us out to be devils.
Yes.
Plain and simply put, they making us out to be a threat. That we're the threat when we're peaceful people. We're not the threat. We're not the ones that's walking up in the schools, shooting up schools and blowing up schools because mommy wouldn't let us drive cars.
And to touch and just to touch on that, Marcus and Martin, like this is the thing, right? We have issues, of course, happening in our Black communities with our young people committing crimes. Like we all know that.
Mm-hmm.
In Chicago, the average age of a carjacker is 14, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Let's reflect on that.
Mm-hmm.
Speak,
The
sister.
average age of a carjacker in Chicago is 14?
Mm.
That ain't even a high schooler. That's a baby.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but like, I'm young, but like, I'm older than that. And like, I consider myself older than them as far as like a mentor, an adult, a big sister, something. And if we got 14-year-old carjackers in Chicago, do y'all understand that that means we have failed as adults?
Mm-hmm.
We have failed
Yeah.
as adults. And like, we all, and I hear this a lot. It's the parents. It's a very right-wing Republican conservative talking point about Black people, right? It's the demonization of Black parents. It's tied into the white supremacist narrative. Now, do parents have a huge role to play in how their children turn out? Absolutely. Absolutely, we do. You know, I'm a young mother myself. I mean, my baby's not old enough to jack no car. He's a toddler. But at the same time, do parents play a big role in how their children turn out? Absolutely. But what people seem to forget for some reason is that every parent was a child once too.
Listen.
So if we got parents failing children, but we not looking at who failed those parents when they was children, and then failed their parents when they was children, and then failed their parents' parents when they was children, and if you go back far enough, that's a whip from Massa. So miss me with the demonization of Black parents when we so full of freaking trauma that started from Massa's whip. Do y'all understand? I heard this one time and it was so profound to me, and I teach this to some of the young people, right? With the young folks I work with are usually between the ages of 10, 11, 12, sometimes 13. I do high school as well, but mostly middle school. And I literally have real conversations with them, and I say, what is it really like at home? Like, everybody talking about Black parents, but y'all the Black kids. So I want to know, because I always open it like so that they feel comfortable being real. And they would say, my mama cussed me out. My mama called me bees and hoes. I get called this, that, degraded. And they was being real about it, right? And I was digesting that, right? But I spoke to an older person who had a lot of historical knowledge. And they broke this thing down for me. They said, did you know that back in the day during slavery, when a mother had like a teenage son, right around the age of the kid you're mentoring, and the master would come looking at the son, checking him over, looking at his bone structure in his body to sell him, you know what the mother would do? She would say, master, he ain't nothing but a no good nigga, master. He ain't no good. He dumb. He can't do nothing right, master. You don't want him, master. And you know why she did it? To protect her son. She degraded her child in front of the master so he would look undesirable for being sold. Now, if that's how your mama, your parent was raised, and then your parent has a child, and that's how they was raised, and then your parent has a child. Now we here in 2023 with Black 12 and 11-year-olds being called no good, nobody, bees and hoes and everything else. And then their parents don't even know where it came from.
That's called
all this
generational
ties
curse.
back to slavery. All this ties back to the abuse we faced. All this ties back to what was inflicted upon our culture. We did not wake up like this, Black people. We did not wake up like this.
Can I piggyback, Erica? Can I piggyback?
Go ahead, Tiffany.
Can I piggyback real quick?
Go ahead, Tiffany.
Okay, so there's a little bit of a lag here, so you got to excuse me. So real quick, I want to go back to communism, communism, socialist, and then capitalizing, right? But real quick, I want to touch what you're saying, right? So everything you just said, when you go back to our history, even under slavery, that's called generational a curse, right? Because you just explained it. That's
It's
what
called
happens.
generational crime, Tiffany.
Curse.
It's called a generational crime. And guess what?
Okay.
They want to arrest everybody for everything in our neighborhood, but don't want to arrest themselves. It's called a crime. A crime was committed. And it's time for somebody to be held accountable. That's what it is. Generational crime. A generational crime that has never been prosecuted.
Hold on, Marcus. I told you that I want to finish with her because I want to piggyback off of
Tiffany,
communism, socialism, and capitalizing.
First of all, Tiffany, don't do that. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Now, this is not your show. This is Erica's show, okay? Now, he was polite. He was polite, so don't do that. Don't do that. Now, Erica, who you want to talk right now, Marcus or Tiffany?
I'm going to hear from Marcus. Marcus, what were you going to say?
Go ahead. Marcus, go ahead.
What I was going to, if you talk about, it just gave me an idea. America needs to handcuff itself. They get at you about burning the flag, but don't understand why people burn the flag. Okay. Another thing I want to say is that when I was a kid, my mother, my auntie, I'm my mother's only boy. My auntie had two boys. In my family, they're from the South. You've heard of a black town called Mound Bayou, Mississippi. They never told us or called us any type of names. They saw parents do this to their kids on the bus, and they would question them, like, why are you calling that child a nappy-headed MF or a little nigger? They would use the nigger word. One girl was calling her son, you little no-good-ass nigger. Why are you looking out the window? Why are you playing with that? You know, but my mother never did it. My auntie never did it. None of my other aunties never did it to their boys. And I don't think all black parents back in that era have done it. But what I will say is some of these young parents are doing it. And it's really, it also comes from their parents who didn't take care of them like they should have.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for that, Marcus. I absolutely believe, because you got to understand, y'all, as Black people who have been who are the descendants of the slave trade, we all come from different plantations. We all come from different, sets of Black people that had different, slight different experiences, right? Some of our peoples was freedmen sooner than others. Some of our peoples may have been runaways, right? Some of us might have runaways in our DNA. Mm-hmm. Right. But then there's some of us who come from those generations of let's just say you on a plantation, right? You have a teenage son or a young son that's right around the age the master starts purveying who he can sell. And your son is right around that prime age, your baby, to be sold. And you see another mother with a son about your age, and she does that. She starts demeaning her son in front of the master, telling the master how stupid he is, how he can't do nothing right, demeaning him. And then the master passes him along. He says, okay, you can take him away. What's that going to tell you as a mother when master comes to you? What you need to do to protect your child. You're going to do the same thing. If you saw it works for her, you're going to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And now that child grows up having that done to them multiple times, and now they have a child, and they like, that's all I know. That's how I grew up. Now, it's not exactly a part of Black culture, especially back in the day, for Black parents to explain anything to a child. Okay, let's keep it real. It's not really a part of Black culture to explain things to children. You just do it, and you just got to deal with it, right? So it's not like the children got any type of nuance or explanation why they was being talked about like that. They just had to grow up. That's how they were talked about. And now they have a child. And they might not even be on the plantation no more. This might be post-slavery. This might be right after emancipation. But now they have a child, and all they remember is being demeaned. That's the only thing they know. Some of us in our communities come from a generational line of those slaves. Some of us come from a line of runaways. Some of us come from a line of house Negroes. Some of us come from a line of field Negroes. Like, we all come from different lines in slavery. But those lines are now manifesting themselves today. That's all we're watching. That's all we're seeing. But again, it's not a generational curse. It's a generational crime. And no one has been prosecuted. That's why I stand for reparations. Because I will be damned if this country is sitting on immense wealth that was built off of that kind of trauma, that kind of crime. Ain't nothing but a bunch of criminals but want to arrest every damn body in our community. You got me messed up. Arrest you first, and then worry about arresting somebody else.
So I heard a judge say, she said, we went from picking cotton, now we are the cotton. Talking about black folks. That's what I heard the judge say that. And it was so profound to me. That was profound to me. I was like, wow. Because my father, he picked cotton back in his day, and he's deceased now. And he just couldn't take it. You know, it wasn't for him. He left the South at 14 years old. You know, it told my grandmama, which is his mother, that he was going to the show theater, and she said he was gone. She hadn't seen him for years. You know, he just left. He couldn't take it no more. Couldn't take it.
Yeah.
Let me say this too. Another thing, he grew up. He used to play with the white kids and all that. And I believe one of his neighbors, when they got like around 11 or 12 or something, he had to call him Mister. He'd get off the sidewalk, let him walk by, and he had to call him Mister and hold his head down. So that traumatized my father. You know, maybe that's where I get my little, stuff from, and my father was never a type of person to talk about things that happen in Deep South. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just didn't understand it. They'll let a little bit out, then stop about it. Maybe it was trauma. I don't know.
It is.
Yeah.
Martin, do you know that scientifically it has been proven that slavery was so long and so traumatic that they tested Black people's DNA and they found mutations in our DNA from the trauma, meaning we literally hold trauma in our bones as Black people that we didn't even experience. That's how long it lasted. These people did us so wrong for so long that they affected freaking evolution.
Wow.
So we currently hold traumas in our bones sometimes that prick us, and we feel a certain type of way. We don't even know why we feel it. We can't even put a finger on it. And that comes from the intense, I'll never forget this. When I first had my baby, I would try to wipe his nose. Babies get snot. And I'm talking about when he was like an infant, like a small, tiny infant. And I would try to wipe his nose. And this tiny baby would fight me to the death. I mean, he was tiny. He was a newborn. He had barely any strength. But when I tried to touch his nose, he would fight me to the death as an infant. And I was like, what's wrong with this baby? Like, that's weird, right? But then I started to read one day, and I saw the story. And this is I'm trying not to cry when I tell this story, about how Black mothers would smother their babies just to make sure they didn't have to live as a slave. And that was witnessed by other slaves. The smothering of those babies was witnessed by other slaves. The trauma of watching a baby smothered was witnessed by other slaves. That trauma is now in our DNA, and my baby wouldn't even let me wipe his nose. Because there was something in him.
Real quick, please.
I'm sorry? Can you give me a second, Tiffany? Give me a second. Give me a second, Tiffany. Give me 1 second, Tiffany. Because I just want to finish. But just the idea that each of us carry these different. Now, another Black baby might not have that trauma, but my particular baby, whatever line we come from, is in there. And my baby fought me for some reason when I got near his nose. And that's sickening. That's a crime. That ain't a generational curse. That's a generational crime. And ain't nobody got arrested yet, but they want to arrest every Negro they see. Get out of here.
I got a question, but I'll wait. I got a question. My question is,
I want to throw something.
go ahead, Marcus.
Oh,
When you talk about
you just had,
my mother was 5 years old. All right, her and her brother was sitting in the car. These black men. My grandfather had to go to Tunica, Mississippi, to this court building to take a shot in his back. So they were sitting in the car. It was hot out. She got out the car. She went to get some water. And this may be why I had this little anger toward the police today. A police officer put a gun to her head. She's 5 years old. And the police officer told her, "You little nigger girl, can't you read? This is white only." He had it cocked. Thank God it never went off because I wouldn't be here today. So when I look at some of these cops and I hear Willie Wilson talking about unhandcuff the police ain't never been handcuffed. We the ones that's been handcuffed.
Exactly. You're absolutely right about that, Marcus.
Really makes me want to just reach out.
You're absolutely right about that. And let me address something real quick. I don't know who this is, Fern, your nosy Ortiz. The comment you just made, maybe because of your long nails digging in his face, talking about my baby. First of all, I play guitar, so I keep my nails short. I am not the one, the two, or the three. So if you want to come on here and be disrespectful, particularly about me sharing trauma about my child, take your white supremacist behind somewhere else. Because I'm not the one. Don't play with me. Next question.
Tiffany, go ahead. Question, not no statement. Question, Tiffany.
okay.
Go ahead.
Well, I wanted to break.
No, listen, Tiffany.
What can I say,
You
Martin?
take too long. You take too long. Then question.
Right, but at least I'm talking about something when I call. Shut up. At least I'm saying something when I call. I'm
Tiffany.
not talking about me, I.
Tiffany, Tiffany. This show is not about Tiffany Wilson, okay? This show is about Erica.
I know that.
That's what
it's
this
not
show is about,
me.
okay? All right, I'm just letting
I
you
know
know.
that.
I'm letting you know,
I'm
okay?
not making you don't hear me talking stories about me.
Regardless,
I never
Tiffany,
talk of stories
Tiffany,
about
first of all, let me just say something. Most of these people on here are black, okay? You consider yourself as mixed, and I have no problem with that.
And I'm mixed.
Okay, but listen, and we talking about black problems, and they already know that. They said, well, why is Tiffany talking and she's going by mixed and she's not representing herself as being black? But I'm trying to be fair on the show.
Yes, I am.
No, well, you never say you're black, so I don't, that's what's being said. But go ahead,
I have
Tiffany.
said that. I've said it many times that I'm mixed. They can go stalk my wall like everybody else does. They'll see the photo of me and my father. They're just jealous, Martin. How many more times do I got to? They're jealous, Martin. That's what
Okay,
cold-minded
Tiffany,
people
let's get
do.
back on subject.
They're jealous.
That's done.
So thanks so
Okay.
much, Tiffany. Can you okay, so I just want to address something real quick. Andromeda 92 said the problem is some of your information has no validity. Hold on, let me try to pull up this comment. Some of your information has no validity to it. What are your credentials to be able to make that statement? Do you have a master's degree or a doctorate degree in those fields? Okay, well, let me address that, Andromeda. So like I said, I am a college graduate. My field of study is social psychology. So I literally graduated from college with honors. I have written entire honors theses on social psychology topics. I am a trained researcher on social psychology. And for those who don't understand what social psychology is, it's not like psychology where you like sit on a couch with a counselor and they counsel you. Social psychology is the study of groups of people. So like if somebody says something racist happened, for example, we actually run studies and tests to prove that it was racist. So I actually come from a background of how you do the actual studies to prove the experiences that people are reporting. And the reason I did that, actually, Andromeda, is because of folks like you, who when we express experiences, we get told we don't know enough. We get told, what's your degree? We get told, what's your doctorate? and we get told that what we're experiencing isn't real. So the reason I actually decided to study social psychology and graduate with my degree in that was because I wanted to have the tools to be able to actually show the evidence that what our people is reporting is real. So I actually come from that background. I've done reparations work. This previous year, I went all the way to the United Nations, but in Geneva, Switzerland, like the actual United Nations, to speak on reparations for the descendant of African slaves with a cohort of people. So I take this work seriously. That is not a short flight to Switzerland. And the United Nations is not exactly like a small thing to go do. So I am actually very trained in this subject. I actually know what I'm talking about. And I do have the education behind it, if that means something to people. But the number one thing I have is listening to our people without them having to have a degree. Because when you collect these stories, that is the material that you use to run studies. You cannot run the studies unless you actually listen to the people and unless you actually listen to their experiences and take those things as real data to study. So just to answer your question.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. I put it up there. That's what she was talking about. I put it up there. All right. Okay. Now listen, let me set some ground rules here. I got to do something there. Tiffany, let me just say something. And I'm not going to take no more time out with you tonight. I see a lot of comments that you guys go back and forth with Tiffany, back and forth. Listen, people, let's and Tiffany, you make slick comments too, calling people poor and all that. That's not, you shouldn't be doing that, and people shouldn't be calling Tiffany that. Listen, let's not do that.
Poor-minded.
Regardless, Tiffany, everybody has a place. The world is a stage, and everybody have their own role to play. Some are rich, some are poor, some are not. Hey, it is what it is. You can't keep coming on here insulting people with your comments, Tiffany. They feel in a certain kind of way. They're calling you a troll, you know. Now, you want to bring your face on here so they can see you? I'll be happy to send you a link so you can come on here. You want to bring your face on here so they can see you, Tiffany?
So they're influencing you.
No,
I can't do
Tiffany,
that.
Tiffany.
I can't just come on here right now.
Okay.
But if that's what you think of me, I can hang up.
No, I mean, it's
because
on
it's
you.
about you. What
no,
you think. What
it's not
you
about
feel, not what they say.
Listen. It's not. Listen.
That's what it is. It's about how you
Tiffany,
feel.
Tiffany,
Not
I'm your
about
friend
me.
on your page, and I can't see none of your friends. I'm just saying, I'm your friend. We're friends.
That's because I got it locked.
Right. And I mean, I don't understand that, but that's another subject. Let's get back on the subject here. Let's get back on what we're talking about. So we'll talk about that later, whenever, or message me or something, whatever. But what is the question you have to talk about, Tiffany?
It's not a question. I wanted to make a statement. Is that okay, Erica?
Yeah, you got.
Go ahead, Tiffany. At this point, go ahead.
No, at this point, I don't even have to say nothing. I'm not here to aggravate Tiffany or Martin at all. Erica, excuse me. Look, you got me saying mine. To Erica or Martin, I don't want to do that at all.
Let me ask you a question, Tiffany, since you are very vocal on this show. You say you're mixed, correct? Is that how you identify, Tiffany?
Yes. Well, I'm
You
100%
identify-
black, 100% white. I'm 100% white and 100% black.
Okay, so you're
I dummy it down and
basically.
say mix. So the way that
I got
society
you.
is,
I got
Mhm.
you. I just wanted to just figure out what you was identifying with. And as far as the household you grew up with, did you grow up with your white side and your black side in the same household, or did you grow up with your white side in the household or your black side in the household? I'm just curious.
it's both sides.
So you had the black side
And that's what
the
makes
white
me
side
very
both in your
diverse.
household?
Yes, and that's where my diversity comes from.
Okay, so here's something that I think is very important because full disclosure, Tiffany, my child is biracial. My child is actually part white, believe it or not, y'all. Is what it is. Things happen. But I love my baby. My baby is precious. But my baby currently doesn't really have a relationship with his white family. He's being raised completely by black people. His white family is not in his life. And so one thing I would like to share with you, Tiffany, that I have learned as the mother of a biracial child and also being in the environment of those types of things is that um, when you are raised, and studies show this also, by the way, so I'm not just talking my own opinion. When you are raised in a household with a white person as a primary caregiver, um, you can have a propensity to see the world through a white lens. That goes for being adopted. That goes for being biracial. If you are raised by conversely in a completely black household with no white people, even if you're biracial, mixed, whatever, adopted, you tend to see the world through a black lens. So if you were raised by a primary caregiver who was white, and you are also yourself biracial yourself, right? You may just as a self-reflection tonight have adopted some of the ways that white people behave in black spaces without even realizing it. Because we learn things from our caregivers. And even if our parent is our parent, but we're a part black or we're a part of another or Latino or another race, right? Our parent is still white. And they still gonna have white propensities and white perspectives. So when you grow up in that environment, you have to sometimes unlearn some things. And so the way you show up in black spaces may very well be a reflection of how, I'm not sure if it was your mother or your father who was white, but how a white man would show up in this space or how a white woman would show up in this space. Not knowing how to sit back, not knowing how to listen, not knowing how to allow us to have the floor, dominating the conversation, wanting to kind of be the expert. Those are white people, proclivities. So I just want you to reflect as a mixed person sometimes that especially being raised in a household with the white parent, you may have picked up some of those things.
No, I never
And
said
that you
that.
have to kind
I
of
never said
reflect
that,
sometimes
though.
on
I
how
never
you're
said
showing up in black spaces as a biracial person. Because even though, yes, you have black is the dominant. Martin was talking about this with me today. Black is the dominant thing. If you black mixed with anything, you black. That's why they so scared of blackness coming into this country, is because they don't want to blackify their whiteness. So we're always going to be the dominant DNA. But the point is about environment, right? Nature versus nurture, as they say. So just understand that some of your nurturing, if you actually were raised around a white caregiver, may be a reflection of how you're showing up
I
in black
told you
spaces,
that
and you just need to
I'm
reflect.
100 right, but I did say, right, Erica, that I have both sides in my life, right? I did say that. I also said that I identify 100% white, 100% black. The easier way in today's society is to say mixed. That's the way I identify, 100% black, 100% white. Now, by listening to you, you're telling me that I have to be unbiased to my black side whenever I'm talking to my black people. That's not fair. It's not right, and that's horrible. That's insane. There's many blacks like myself, right, that want to be able to say the things that I do. When I'm talking, tell the other person to stop talking over the person. So many of us want to say it, but what happens? It turns into a big old fight, big old argument. You have not witnessed it tonight, but it's happened many other times, not just with me, but other people on the panel, right? Also, that's the one thing is we cannot continue to move biasly. That's why people ignore us. We ignore each other, right? Because people don't want to speak the facts, right? That's one of the biggest things. Now, going back to what you said. Okay, it's sad that we are generationally have been criminalized by way of the things that we do, say, live, etc. But I also stand for men and I stand for children. Those children that are born are into these conditions that are abusive, neglectful, no love, often a stake, and they are single mother homes. So you can't sit here and try to. So I don't. So it bothers me, right? When someone says that because that white boy, right? Because I know what the white boy did to us, right? Because I love our people as well, right? That white boy has now confirmed it's okay that our little itty bitty black boys are dying, whether it's white folks doing it or our folks doing it. It's still not right. And see, I stand for children and I stand for men that are not married to these females. I'm being nice, Mark, to these females. It's not fair. It's not right at all. And if that's what the majority of us, because that's what it is, we are a majority of we are a majority of light thinkers. There's not a lot of us that are individuals, right? We follow the leader of each other, right? We don't read. Many of us don't even read. Many of us do not even graduate from the 7th, 8th, ninth grade. We drop out, right? So please, to anybody that's listening, or I don't care, right? Do not continue to allow what happened to us then to hurt our babies today. That's why they laugh at us. They laugh at what they see today, not yesterday, not what has happened to us. And that's what's it's sad, heartening. And the things that you've said pertaining to that is so many of our people hurt because of that. Everybody is waiting for somebody. Well, when we gonna change it? When we gonna change it? When we gonna change it? We got to get past it, man. Now,
And
right down to the listeners.
Go ahead, Eric, because I want to say something.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
yes,
Eric,
so
one-
Tiffany, I just want to check in with you. At this point, with what you said, do you feel like you've been heard? Do you feel like you've expressed pretty much? Because I'm hearing a lot of the same things that you said before, enough to exit the conversation and allow another caller to have an opportunity. Because the other thing,
Okay,
and the reason why I'm
this is the
invested
phone.
even, and I know a lot of people, y'all are making jokes about Tiffany, and I get it. Yes, Tiffany is something else. But Tiffany, the reason why I'm actually invested in this conversation real quick with you is because number one, it's a teachable moment. Number two, my son is biracial, and I have a he's only a baby, so I don't know what he's going to experience, but I do know he's only raised by Black people right now, and that does have an effect on the way somebody sees the world. But the one thing that I will say for you is that being raised in a household where you have both, what I'm basically hearing right now is you are experiencing both the unchecked privilege of a white person while experiencing not feeling heard of a Black person.
Oh.
And it's like
No,
it's combining in this way that's kind of dominating the topic.
Wrong.
And I just would like you to reflect a little bit on how you could give other people some space, as well as me as the guest on the show, to be able to not feel so unheard right now when you've actually dominated a lot of the conversation in real life.
Okay. All right then. Okay. All right. Hey, to my people, we'll get through this. Each one, teach one, reach one, and try to think outside the box. We don't have to become a circumstance to what we've been institutionalized to, and it's not fair to our babies and the men.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. And we would love to give another caller some space tonight. Is that okay? Thank you. All right.
Well, I just want to apologize. Let me just say something, Erica, real quick. And I'm going to just say this. The Black gene is the dominant gene.
Yes.
There's no 50-50. There's no 100-100. It's the dominant gene, people. Listen, biological speaking, scientifically, it's the dominant gene. That's why when they was lynching us, hanging us from trees, they would castrate us. It's the dominant gene, people, regardless. I understand she want to identify with both sides, but she have a lot of white talking points, and I don't know if she ever had any Black friends or anything, and she say little things that white people say on here, and, I be trying to ignore it. Then all the followers, they get mad at me because she got them thinking that we're in a relationship. That's not. I don't even know Tiffany like that. You know what I'm saying? And I like Tiffany. She's okay. Sometimes she could be a little aggressive, but she's a pretty nice person. But I don't want people thinking that I'm sleeping with, with people. I'm not.
No, I've listened into your show multiple times, and
Right,
she
right.
does this every time. And like I'm a guest, so I'm trying to
Right.
behave
This
as a
your
guest over
time.
here,
Your
Martin.
time
This
to
ain't my
shine.
show. I'm a guest, so
That's
I'm
right.
just trying to deal with it the best way I can.
Okay, Marcus, let's get the show back on the road. Come on. No disrespect, Tiffany, but I had to speak my mind. Go ahead, Marcus.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna ask you this. This might be a little weird to ask, but the people who were killed during slavery. I don't tell people this too much. I have this talk with people in my family, but I've had these dreams where it was like I was on a slave plantation, and it'd be so real. It was like one time I had a dream like I was running away, or the slave master had lined all of us up in this field, and he took something and shoved me in my back with it, to the point when I woke up, I could still feel the pain in my back. And people talk about the ancestors trying to reach out to you. I don't know at times what they're trying to show me. And my family also has a little Indian in it, Black Indian, which people don't talk about, that were here in America, and they were put in slavery as well. So it might sound weird, but I brought it up because you was talking about how your baby was like fighting you to a T. I don't want to sound crazy or anything, but I don't believe in reincarnation. I do believe that at some point in time, it's possible that some of us could have been here before, and we didn't live out our mission, and God sent us back here. It's a crazy field to go into, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, there's spiritual kind of, I mean, everybody has their own spirituality. I'm a spiritual person myself. I believe in those different realms. Everybody's different. But I'm also a scientist. It's weird to be spiritual and a scientist because everybody act like those two things can't coexist. But I am both,
You got
so
you
I
another
believe.
caller too. You have another caller
Oh,
too,
we
Eric.
do. Who's the new
Oh,
caller?
yeah. 2841. You're live, uncut, unedited. 2841.
Hi, Martin.
Hey, how you doing? Good. And Erica is our special guest today. So it's her show today, but we're talking. Go ahead. You got any questions for Erica, or you want to make a statement? And Erica is going to address it. Go ahead.
Yes. No, I have a question for Erica. Erica, through your studies, I don't know if this is a myth or if it's true, but I've been hearing that some of the cities, towns here in the United States, such as Georgia, Mississippi, have little copes, and they're saying that could be where a lot of our missing Black people are, and they're assimilating like back in the slavery days. Have you heard anything of this sort, or could that be just a myth?
No, there's actually a real law, y'all, that just passed in Mississippi. That's like a new Jim Crow law, where the white legislator, the white racist, white supremacist legislator in Mississippi has actually passed a law. So it's going to appear on the ballot to create a different judicial system for white people than Black people.
In Mississippi, yeah.
In Mississippi. It's real. It's not a myth. And they trying it. So Mississippi needs to organize. And then y'all also understand the voter suppression in places like Mississippi to try to get Black people not to vote. So they are living in a very civil rights like era time right now. Yes, in Jackson, somebody just said that. Go through hell and high water to get to the polls. Like hell and high water to get to the polls, because this is real. Because once the legislature passes it, it goes on the ballot. So once it's voted for, then it becomes law. But the fact it even made it that far is just shocking and sickening. But it is true, right? And what you think them white racist constituents gonna vote for, right? They're gonna vote for that law. So Black folks in Mississippi need to show out and show up and show out. And it's like, I feel overwhelmed right now with just going on with Chicago. I wish I could go help them. And I have done interstate work. I've been all over this country. I've done work with the Poor People's Campaign, if y'all have heard of that, which is Dr. King originally started it right before his assassination. But Reverend William Barber and Dr. Liz Theo Harris were a part of resurrecting it for this generation and taking the baton with some of the elders who were a part of the original Poor People's Campaign. And we've been across this country to all these different states. So I've done that work. But right now, I'm so focused on what's going on in Chicago. Chicago is also nationally being watched right now for how this election goes. And I feel very dedicated to my city right now. But if I could, I would go to Mississippi and help them because, man, listen, that's gonna set a precedence, because if that thing passed, Alabama gonna be ready to do it. Georgia gonna get ready to do it. They gonna start. Louisiana gonna get thirsty to do, so we gotta stop this thing now.
Yeah, because I'm hearing that they're actually acting out slavery in some towns, have slaves, and they're saying it's okay. You can be a good slave and they don't have to beat you. And then there's some slaves that need to be beaten. I've just heard this. I was like, this can't be real, but they're saying it's real.
I don't put nothing past what's going on in Mississippi, to be honest. But honestly, I don't know if y'all realize this, even in Chicago, I know we think we the North or whatever you want to call it, or, that's the racist down South. But listen here, this whole country right now is going through a repeat of history. History has a tendency to repeat itself. Yes. And one thing we are experiencing right now, y'all, is a repeat of the Civil War. The Union versus the Confederacy. It's happening in the Chicago election right now. It's happening in Mississippi. It's a Union versus Confederacy war going on right now politically. We might not be shooting bayonets at each other, but it is a war going on for the control of this country by the white supremacist January 6th insurrectionist Trump supporter white supremacist people, Republican side, and the people who are fighting for liberation, the people who are deciding not to go that way. And the other thing we need to realize, I don't know if y'all know about Jamal Green and his critique of Brandon Johnson, but one of the things Jamal kept saying about Brandon Johnson as some kind of illegitimacy of his candidacy was that it was white people who mostly elected Brandon in the first round, and it was white people who mostly elected Valid. So somehow that was invalid in some way. But that's not true. You want to know what that was? That was a war between white people that white people need to be in. That's what that was. See, majority of Black people in the first round of this election voted for Lori Lightfoot, according to the numbers. And the majority of Black people voted for Lori Lightfoot. Why? Because for the most part, a lot of Black people just thought Lori was inevitable. And unfortunately, and y'all, please shoot some stuff in the comments and let me know if y'all see something different, because this is shame. This is tell the truth, shame the devil, right? Right. Live uncut.
Tell the truth and shame the devil.
But
you already know what it is. Live, uncut, unedited. Go ahead, Erica.
Yes, I love it. But do y'all notice this as well? Because this is a trend I've noticed. Like I said, I haven't run an official study on it, but I would love to hear y'all's insights. I notice a trend in the Black community when it comes to those who do vote. Like, we do need to have a higher voting percentage, but the ones who do traditionally vote, like the ones that voted for Lori, it's like a casino style voting. It's like a racehorse style voting. Like, I'm going to vote for who I think going to win. I'm not necessarily voting for who I really, 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 really want to win. Like, I'm not that hype for them, but I'm going to go with the horse that I think going to win. And that's what feels like was happening with the Black community with all that Lori voting, because it wasn't enthusiasm for her. If she had enthusiasm, she would have won. So it wasn't like an enthusiastic vote. It felt more like Black people had just kind of not given up, but like accepted what they considered inevitable. Like, this the horse that's going to win. I don't want to vote for the horse that ain't going to win, or I don't know if these other horses even have a chance. So I'm going to just stick with what I know. That's how the Lori black vote really seemed to go. It wasn't an anti-Brandon vote. The black vote in the first round was not an anti-Brandon vote. It may have been an anti-Vallis vote. So from the numbers we see now, where almost 80% of black people are voting for Brandon, it may have somewhat been an anti-Vallis vote, but it definitely wasn't no anti-Brandon vote in the black community. They just didn't think he could win. And they was picking the horse that they thought was inevitable. It was a casino style voting going on. But then the young man ended up making it, to all of our shock, right? And now he's an option, right? And now the black community gets a chance to get to know him and meet him and hear more about him, right? And they're all starting to support him. But the original way that it went, where it was mostly white people from different factions that originally put Brandon up and Vallis up as the top two winners, we are looking at the new Civil War, y'all. The Union versus the Confederacy. Now, is the Union Army perfect? Hell to the no. Does the Union Army not have a couple people in it that's white and problematic? Of course it does. But the Union needs to freaking win. I know that. I know the Confederacy don't need to win. So even though white people are at a war with themselves right now in this country of deciding who they're going to be, literally at the Thanksgiving table, when white people have Thanksgiving, they're racist family members, and then the white people that's like, no, y'all are wrong, y'all are racist, they need to be fighting right now. And as black people, like Harriet Tubman, we need to be being generals, and we need to be directing our people to the right side so that we could at least, at bare minimum, win bare minimum things. Like the ending the institution of slavery was a bare minimum. Taxing the wealthiest people in the city so that our communities aren't starving is a bare minimum. Not investing all of our funds into policing instead of our people is a bare minimum win, y'all. That's the Union side. And we should be supporting it, period. This is a no-brainer. And all the people, all the black folks that have been joining the Confederacy and going over that side with all the trickers and the chicanery are looking out for themselves. They are looking out for their own pockets, their own coffers, their own organization. They are not thinking about the whole. They are thinking about their own silos, because remember when we talked about capitalism earlier? It's a competition for who name go on the plaque. Who gets to say they did it? Who gets to say my organization is the one? Who gets to say I got the position? Instead of what's best for the whole. And that's how they were able to be drawn to the Confederacy. That's how they were able to be drawn to the other side. Because that other side ain't nothing but a bunch of capitalists. Ken Griffin, the wealthiest man that used to live in Illinois, who actually makes his wealth off of gun manufacturing and putting guns on our streets, is one of Paul Vallis's biggest donors. How you gonna put the guns on our streets, but then you somehow supposed to solve the crime that you helping to create?
Preach.
That's called the okie doke. That's what that's called.
Well explained.
But that's what they own.
Wow. This Eric, I didn't know you was this deep, girl. Young lady, I'm sorry, I'm calling you girl, young lady, just to talk. But man, I'm telling you, this is. But you know, my spirit told me to bring you on here, and I'm glad I followed my spirit. I was not disappointed. And one thing I noticed about you, you're very smart. You well read, and I like that. You know, and just
thank you.
And our people need to hear this. You know, I'm 54. I'm old enough to be your father. And I'm like, my mouth is like, I'm like here looking like, okay, I didn't know that. Now I think I'm a pretty smart person, but you have revealed some things to me. Like, wow, I didn't know that. I should have had my notebook pad out. Now I feel bad. But I didn't know, I didn't know. But next time when you come on, I'm going to make sure I have my notepad so I can write some of these things down. So now I'm going to have to go back over the video and rewind and listen, then take the notes. So I got to do double work.
No problem. Thank you for having me on the show, man.
Listen,
I appreciate you.
Listen, you handle Tiffany. So you handle it better than I can. And I'm the host. So, I try to be nice to people. Tiffany, She need a little special attention. I give her a little special attention. Okay, now Tiff, we got to go back to the program. So she's learned. I don't know if she ever lived around black people or you know
Mhm.
she had to know how we think. And she
Yeah.
really and you tried to tell her, but she didn't see what you was saying though.
Yeah.
She didn't see. You tried to relate to her. She didn't see what you're saying. See, and that's what I always say. Those of you out there that got white parents, got a white parent, and you're mixed child, just ask your parent to be real honest with you. They know what's happening to black people in this country.
Yes.
They know, they can tell you. They know black people are treated unfair, just like this immigrant game. And we're different on it. The white people, both Democrats and Republicans, wants them here. Okay. The older people, my age, not your age, say, hey, man, they're trying to come in and take all our jobs. That's how we looking at it. Seriously. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And I could be wrong, but they're not coming over here without a promise. So they're being promised to come over here and not to mingle with us. Am I right, Marcus? Because they don't mingle with us. They
Yeah,
do they do not mingle with us.
Are
They
you
do,
talking about the immigrant
they
population?
yeah,
teach them.
yeah, yeah. The immigrant, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They teach them
They
not
don't
to
mingle with
move with us.
us. I'm talking about the immigrant population.
Yeah, and it's definitely I think there's also some nuance too with that with the immigrants. We have to understand as black people, right, that there is a what do I call it? A certain message of America that has gone on for centuries about how you actually become an American. And it's not taking the literacy test or the test you have to take to get your citizenship and you do the Pledge of Allegiance. That ain't really it. The way that you become an American in the United States of America historically is you have to earn your whiteness.
Hmm.
That's how you become an American in America. And how do you earn your whiteness? I'm talking about like the Irish, the Germans, the Italians. When they came over, they were originally ostracized people. They were originally people who were not accepted. But what was the message they caught on to real quick? It was if we help the Yankees, the English or whatever, oppress these black people, we can earn our whiteness. So guess what they did? Just that. They
Hmm.
became the overseers. They became slave catchers. They participated in the institution of slavery. They were deputized during the different laws that were passed. The fugitive slave law, for example, which deputized every white person in the country to catch a runaway if you see one, as a popo, as a police. These are what the Irish, the Germans, the Italians did to earn their whiteness. And if they learned a lesson about America, the way to become a true American is to earn being white. And the way you do that is by oppressing the other group. And that group is almost always black people. Now, what we are seeing now with the immigrant population is that they got the message too. The Latino populations and
Hmm.
things like that. And that is why there's a split right now between them. It's like a war going on, just like with the white folks, between the Latino communities. Are we going to identify more with the black struggle as brown folks and what these white folks done did to us? Or are we going to try to audition for whiteness by oppressing them? That's the decision that Latinos are in right now. That's why we see such a divide about how they see policing black communities, how they're divided in black struggle or other things like that, right? But why there's so many reports from black community members of racism they face from Latinos. I don't know if y'all remember when the George Floyd stuff happened. There was Latino communities that was beating black people behind,
Hmm.
right? So it's not that anti-blackness don't exist in the black community, in the Latino community, sorry, but they're in a war right now as well between each other. Which side you gonna choose? Are you gonna try to audition for your whiteness, like the Irish and the Germans and the Italians, by oppressing us black folks, or are you gonna side with the black folks? That's why what Brandon Johnson is doing is so important in this time, because it's giving an option like, join us. Realize that they put your people in cages. The same white supremacists put your people in cages. The same white supremacists don't want you browning up the country. The same white supremacists that called you all kind of wetbacks and all kind of other things. Like, join us. You have a choice. The Rainbow Coalition, like Chairman Fred Hampton. Or are you going to audition for whiteness? Because they have been presented with audition papers by the Republican Party and the Trump Party. And now they're trying to make a choice. And guess who the whipping people are in that audition? Us, Black people, as usual. Now, when it comes to Black people, on the other hand, what we're seeing is Black people see the same message of like, you gotta audition for your place in this country by oppressing another group of people. So that's where you get the Black folks that's like anti-immigrant, close the borders, and then anti-LGBTQ, because we can't really oppress nobody else. We can't oppress white people. Can't really, like, do none of them. And so the only two other groups that we could really do anything to like audition is the immigrants, because we are citizens, and the LGBTQ folks, because of the narrative that is, danger. So those are the two groups that we can audition on. But the problem is, we've been bamboozled to believe that if we do a good job, we gonna earn that whiteness. Tricks on us, because what's gonna happen is the right wing, the racists, the white supremacists that everybody else auditioning to join, they gonna use us propping up their propaganda and their messaging, and they're gonna use our votes joining their party. They're gonna use our votes for Trump. They're gonna use all that to win power. But when it come time to deliver that certificate of Americanness and whiteness, guess who ain't finna get it? Us. Because there is no ladder to climb in the United States of America unless Black people stay at the bottom of it.
I have a question. Do you agree? I've heard it been said that that the Latino is going to be the biggest voting base probably within the next 10 years here in America.
You said voting base?
Yeah, base. Yeah, they're going to outnumber the Blacks when it comes to having votes and stuff like that in America.
See, the demographics in this country are definitely shifting, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we have to understand that people are we are intentionally being asked to focus on one group of people that's browner than another group of people on purpose. And I'm telling you like this, because did y'all not notice that they just let a whole bunch of Ukrainians up in here? Did we not notice that part? Whole bunch of white Ukrainians was just let up in here with a red carpet here in Chicago. I literally saw on the news. On the north side, they was making free food pantries and clothing, free clothing, like stores for the Ukrainians to come shop. They don't even speak Ukrainian over there. And them white folks on the north side rolled out the red carpet from Ukrainian, and we didn't hear a whisper about it. Not a whisper.
Now, I can say this. I didn't hear about that, but I noticed that there is a difference the way they treated the immigrants than the white people that came over here.
Absolutely. Then you have this demographic of the Latino, and God forbid it's a Black immigrant, like a Haitian or like somebody like that. God forbid, because they got to go through abuse through every country just to get here and get abused. So it's definitely levels to this. But the idea is the fear of the browning and the blackening of the country. Because obviously, if you start letting browner people in, then the country, people will start intermixing, people will start intermarrying. And like you said earlier, Martin, Black is the dominant, right? Mm-hmm. It's the dominant gene. The closer to Black you are, that's the dominant gene, right? And so what it is it's actually white people's fear of becoming the minority. It's white people's fear of becoming the minority. And they are trying to ask Black people to join their cause of fear to help suppress the browning and blackening of a country that they fear getting blacker and darker, only to leave us in the lurch when they get done using us for our votes, our support, repeating their rhetoric, oppressing immigrants. As soon as they get what they want from us for their votes and joining a party, because they fear losing power as white people, they fear losing whiteness as the dominant culture in this country. Black people going right back to the bottom of the rung where they need us. They're using us. They are using fear tactics to make us think we gonna earn something by keeping this country from getting browner and blacker. And the other thing is, now, is there brown people and people who come here who immigrate who end up being anti-Black? Absolutely. There's Black people that's anti-Black. Anti-Blackness, baby. Let's not talk about white supremacy. Anti-Blackness is something else. Anti-Blackness is in China. Anti-Blackness is in doggone Africa where they bleaching their skin. Anti-Blackness is insidious. So it's not saying that immigrant people that come here don't be anti-Black and don't buy into that audition we talked about, trying to audition for their whiteness at the expense of us Black people and over-policing us and incarcerating us and controlling us, right? But the choice that we have, though, is to start to build up the idea of coalition around the Black and brownness, around the browning and blackening of this country, rather than buying into the white supremacists who are trying to teach us to separate and fear each other so that they can win and just use us.
Hold it right there. I got another caller.
Can I ask?
Okay, Marcus, let me take this call. Then you can ask her. 3381. Hey, caller, you're live, uncut, unedited. Caller, go ahead.
Hey, Eric, I was responding to you. I don't know if you remember, you said about the Ukraine, how they had the red carpet out. Yeah, they was up there. You know, they have a village. You know, the Eastern Ukraine village on there.
Can you speak up a little bit, caller? Because I can barely hear you.
Brother, you got to speak loud, brother. Speak louder.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, better, much better.
Can you hear me now?
Can you say that again?
Yeah, I don't know if you remember what you said about the Ukrainians that had the red carpet out. Yeah, they was out there. They moved them up to their neighborhood. You know, they got actual the East Ukraine village.
Exactly.
North. I don't know if you know it or not. That's where they have their own little village up there. They've been up there for some years now, so it's like, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, over in those areas for sure. Thank you for bringing that up. Marcus, but my point for that was, do y'all remember any fear mongering when the Ukrainians came? Do y'all remember any news reports about how they opening up the borders to refugees when the Ukrainians came? Or did you hear pro America, beat Russia, go Ukraine, go? That's what we heard. We heard that we was doing the right thing by rescuing them people. But let it be browner or blacker than that.
But they all cousins.
Then it's a problem. Then it's a problem.
The Ukraine and Russia, they're cousins.
Ma'am, hold a second. Marcus got to go next. I'm sorry. Hold it, ma'am. Go ahead, Marcus. You can still ask your question, but I need Marcus to go. Go, Marcus.
Basically, Erica, you're such a very intelligent person.
Thank
you.
And
basically, what I want to ask you is, what part of Chicago are you from? Are you familiar with the neighborhoods in Chicago, like Inglewood?
Yeah, I live in Inglewood. Yeah, I live in Inglewood. Okay.
Well, girl, you better get away from that window.
You so Martin.
Born and raised.
No, actually.
Martin,
so,
that's
so
let
me tell y'all a little bit about my background. So I came to Chicago for college. I was a very young college student. I'm originally from Miami, Florida.
Wow.
But I have now been in Chicago for almost a decade. I decided to make it home because my whole family ended up getting dispersed to different states after I went to college. So by the time I graduated, it was kind of like, well, where do I go home to? Nobody even really lives there. So it kind of was like, okay, Chicago's home now. So I've been here almost a decade now, and I'm not that old, so that's like a big chunk of my life. You know, like it's a big chunk of my adult life. So I definitely feel like Chicago has kind of grown me into my adulthood. But being from Miami, Florida, in my younger years, it did give me kind of some nuance, I think, being here. That helps me to see the world a little different. Like, for example, I speak 3 languages. I speak Spanish and some Haitian Creole. I'm from Miami. We the spot, okay, when it comes to all of that stuff. And I was not used to this level of segregation where I'm from. We got the same kind of populace of Latinos and like Haitians and like immigrants, you know what I'm saying? But like it's not segregated like Chicago is. So when I came here, I was kind of culture shocked, like why everybody kind of stay to themselves. But like you gotta understand, in Miami, our food is dope because of the fusion. Like we got some dope food because it's the Haitian spot right next to the Argentinian spot. Like, and then like in your neighborhood, you'll hear the Jamaicans having a party down one side of your street, and then the Cubans roasting a pig and having a party down the other side of the street. And all you smell is flavors, and all you hear is good ass music. And that's how I grew up. So like it's a beautiful thing to me when people are used to being around each other and used to going to school together and used to sharing food and music and art and culture and having a good time together, right? Where I could bounce to the Jamaicans and go over there and have a party and then get me some roasted pig over at the Cubans with some plantains and some beans and rice in the next, and then go take my butt to sleep. Like that's life. And then hit the beach. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like a whole nother way of seeing the world. And Chicago has all the elements for us to live that way and enjoy life that way. And also build power politically that way, to where as the low income people, we ain't getting overcome by the wealthy all the time. There's so many benefits to us coming together, from the food to the music to the good times we gonna have, to the lack of less violence, to the political power that the working class is gonna have. It's benefit after benefit.
Girl, I got another caller, but I promised the other
and
lady.
that's what.
Go ahead, man. 2841. Go ahead. I got another caller. Go ahead.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of you, Erica, that's what I was going to say. Why can't Chicago be like Miami? I had a suggestion that, we get Brandon as our mayor. We can all benefit for making money in our neighborhoods. We can all have like a tour bus, if you will, through different cultures. Since we're all segregated, maybe they can bring us together, like have a tour bus. You go through, this nationality, and then you go through Chinatown, and you go, because they're all segregated, so we all can make money somehow. And we can just split the money up with the tour guys, because there's so much tour. If we could come together like that, it wouldn't be any segregation, because everybody will learn each other's culture. I would really love to see something like that happen.
Thank you so much for saying that. That's so beautiful. And I wanted to comment on one of the comments in the thread. It said the South is still very racist. You are absolutely right. When me being raised in Miami, I didn't know I lived in the South. I don't know if y'all been to Miami, but Miami ain't like the South. Like when you're in Miami, you feel like you on the island, like you in the islands. Like it don't feel like the deep South until you start going. Like there's a saying about Florida: the more north you go, the more southern it gets. When you start getting into Gainesville and Jacksonville, and and you start seeing Confederate flags. I was culture shocked in Florida when I started going north in Florida, and I was like, what's a Confederate flag? Because in Miami, you got billboards and different language. We all together, we all having a good time. We got multiple beaches, summer all year. Like we not thinking like the same, but there is those elements from like Ron DeSantis and that southern racism that spills into Florida, because it's governed by the same Florida government, and Florida tends to be the most like lefter leaning side of the state, but sometimes they don't have enough people to keep the whole state from being conservative or right wing. So they are all affected. Like right now, my brother is fighting a fight. He's also an organizer back in our hometown in Miami. Ron DeSantis is putting forward a law to make permitless gun ownership in Florida. You can just get a gun. Do you know what that's going to do to the hood? they trying to make us kill each other down there. So you are absolutely right about how those policies do affect. So what I'm saying about Chicago has an opportunity through the election of Brandon Johnson, through these different ways Chicago is than down south, to be like a more progressive, less right-wing version of Miami, like where we actually know what we fight for, where we actually don't let these people do us like that, where we know about worker power, we know about labor power, we know about people power. Like we have the opportunity to be like a different version of that, where it's like we got those benefits and the beauty of coming together, but we got that power from the Black Panthers that started here, the legacies that live in Chicago as this radical revolutionary place. It's like the best of both worlds. Chicago has the ability to be that city. It really does.
Okay. Take this new caller. Hey, 7821 caller, you're live, uncut, unedited. Caller.
Martin, my dear brother, this is Willie Preston, brother. How you doing?
Oh, Senator, hold on. Senator Willie Preston. How you doing, Willie? We got this young lady on here, man. She educating us, man. We just sitting, we in art right now. Go ahead, brother. Say what you got to say. Yeah.
Well, listen, yeah. I've been listening for a little while, and one of the things that I wanted to bring up, Martin, you know this, you know, we've been in the streets for many, many years. Many years. You know, and I want us to sit back and really sit back and think, look, our community has thrived best all throughout this city and all throughout the country. The Black community has thrived best when we had a strong entrepreneurship background. And that's what we need to fight for. So with these young people out here, we want young people being entrepreneurial. And I'm so glad to see what I saw during COVID. I say this sometimes, Mark, and people, they pause, and then I just have to give it to them. Right. I was kind of glad when COVID happened based upon what I saw. Black people was coming together, starting businesses, and a lot of those businesses are still thriving today. See, violence in our community is really at the core of it is poverty. It's people that's poor, ain't got nothing to do, don't have no guidance, no GPS. Our community needs to begin in the political side with an agenda. Our agenda has to be an economic agenda. We keep talking about these social issues and these social agendas and all that. That don't mean anything. Every group that comes to this country, they build off of an agenda. That's what unites them. Of course, we all united by our race and our culture and all that. That's just because it's familiar. But when it gets down to at the end of the day, at the end of the night, is who can take care of themselves, who is having a good life and being able to provide for them and their family. You don't see no poor communities. You don't see no poor white neighborhoods in the city of Chicago, do you, Martin?
No.
Not one. We got white, but there's a reason. See, I'm from Chicago. I understand this town very intrinsically. This is a town that's built off of relationships and it's built off groups, nested groups. Our community has to focus on young people, that is right. And I appreciate her highlighting the carjacking and the things that she's talking about with the crime in our city. But how we solve it, how we get out of the classroom, we ain't theorizing here. How we solve this is creating opportunities, economic opportunities for these young kids. And that's where I want our community to stay focused. It's worked in the past and it's working now. Every time you can go to a park of Beverly right now where there's a lot of Black folks there. All of those kids have opportunities, economic opportunities, and they're not killing each other. So we need to continue to consolidate around an agenda. And Martin, you know I said this before. We need to stop talking about candidates and start talking about our agenda. Our agenda has to be very clear and simple, so don't nobody get confused. Are we with this issue or are we with that issue? And when we start doing that, we are starting to see the real mighty Black politicians, the real mighty Black political strength come back in the city of Chicago like we have here. We are the envy of all Black communities politically in the world because Black folks under Mayor Washington and many, many others, we came together around an agenda. And that agenda was about being able to take care of ourselves and our families. We wanted our share of the pie, the money. So let's focus on getting these kids out the streets and giving them their summer back. And let's focus on an economic agenda and stop theorizing about, all these extra things. Because at the end of the day, we need to make sure these young people are back in these trade schools. We need to give them the opportunity to have some skills to pay the bills. Hey, that's it for me, Martin. Hey, I love you, brother.
Let me just say something real quick, Will, before you go. Now, this is what I'm hearing. And Erica, I want you to listen to as well. And when a lot of people, when you talk to a lot of people, I'm talking about politicians, and you ask them, what makes you support Paul Vallis? And this is what they say. And it may be true. I'm considering it. They say that Paul has more connections than Brandon. Now, that may be true, but we're not trying to go back into the old policies.
Yes.
We're trying to make a transition into the new. You know, we're not trying to go back to the Ron Emanuel machine and the Daily machine. And I understand it. And that may be true. He may have more connections than Commissioner Brandon Johnson. So that's why a lot of politicians are favoring Paul Vallis on that point. That's what I want to say that too.
And can I
That's at least what they say, Martin.
That's what
they say that.
Yeah, I'm just telling you what I'm hearing.
But listen, Martin, they say that. I've been hearing that too. But let me tell you this, Martin. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to chime in real quick. Thank you for sharing that.
Let me say this.
I will. I just, before you say more, I just want to comment on what you've already said.
Okay.
So as far as the economic, saying that social issues are other stuff and economic issues are other stuff, they're not. They're all tied, because the economy is affected by the social conditions of the people. If the people are not well mentally, they can't even work a job or start a business. If the people aren't well physically, if the households are all jacked up, if there's too much conflict going on in the streets, if we don't have the youth with outlets and opportunities and connection to arts and ability to just be young and free and safe, it all affects the economics. So to say that that's a separate thing is actually not true. And that's what's caused us that mentality that is all about making money when people sick mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. But it's making money. That's that capitalist mindset. That's just about money. And that's not the way. Our people need to be healed in order to have a bill, as they say, right? So we need to think of it as a holistic approach to this. And then also this entrepreneurial thing. Let me tell you something about that. It's nothing wrong with starting a business, but everybody can't be a business person. Somebody got to work there. Everybody can't own a business. Somebody got to mop the floor. 10 people got to cut the hair. 8 people got to make the ice cream. Like this idea that, that we can just all be entrepreneurs without thinking about workers is a false thing to be teaching our children. Why? Because then they don't value how workers are what actually fuel the community to be able to patron the businesses in the first place. Because if the people too poor to come to your store, baby, you ain't gonna have no store no more. And I ain't even mean to rhyme like that, but that's bars. Period. If the people too poor to afford your store, you ain't gonna have no store no more. And so we need to stop with just the entrepreneurial model and start thinking about the holistic health of the community to be able to even participate in those businesses so they don't end up the next closed, boarded up, old skeleton of a once thriving Black business because everybody messed up and jacked up.
So Eric, I hear you, and I appreciate that. I'm certainly not saying that we have to just be one-sided, but I just want us to, simplify our thoughts here. Every group that comes into this country, they come here and they build an economic base. From that economic base, they start to grow political power. With the political power, they insulate their communities and they continue to build relationships with other communities. Sometimes they take over communities that are weak, and the only thing that truly, the most common thing that makes our communities weak, and it's usually targeted Black folks, is we don't own the businesses in our community. We have a weak economic bandwidth. But Martin, to your point about this talking point about Paul Vallis has connections and all this, right? Look, those are excuses from elected officials, and I understand that folks want to be able to justify who they support in this race because going with Paul Vallis is not a popular thing to do if you're a black elected official. Some of them may just need to admit that they believe in Paul Vallis. They think he'd be better met. But this whole business about Paul Vallis having connections is ridiculous. This is Chicago. With no disrespect to no other city, I'm a Chicagoan through and through. This ain't Gary, Indiana. Chicago ain't going anywhere. Whoever the mayor is in Chicago, I guarantee you, the moment they're sworn in, or even prior to that, the moment they're elected, they're going to get phone calls from all over the world. Chicago isn't going anywhere. We have one of the strongest transportation systems in the world. We have international airports. We have so much open spaces. Chicago is the epicenter of economics. We have financial trade centers here. So what black folks, and in particular, I feel, and this is what I'm fighting for and what I think we should continue to advocate for, black folks have to make certain that we take part of the economic largesse across this city. And that's it. Create the economic floor for ourselves as our grandparents, my grandparents, because I'm in my 30s as well. Recreate that mighty black working class. And much of that has to do with, yes, we should be police officers. Yes, we should be in the fire department. Yes, we should be teachers. Those good government jobs are keeping other communities ahead of us. Come on, you can go in Beverly, Mount Greenwood, you can go to the far northwest side, you can go to all these communities and you will see 4 or 5 police officers on the block, firemen on the block, teachers. Many of those teachers come drive to the south side and the west side, commute to our communities to teach our own children. And you know what? They go right back to their communities where they can all patronize those small businesses that's thriving all up and down their business districts. 79th Street will be the Blacknificent Mile if and only if we focus very, very narrowly on the economic agenda for black people, create and support small businesses up and down the 9, like it once was on 47th, and like it will be again, because that's, when you do that, all the other things come together. Right? You have to have parents have to have the confidence and the ability to be stable. Once a kid has a stable house, a stable home, that kid is really under the direction of their parents that's doing well for them. And they respect their parents. When kids around this city struggling, house surfing, at the end of the day, there's not a book that they can read, a documentary they can watch that's gonna capture them as much as it is that young dude that's probably not through his life away trying to capture them in the streets. We got to focus on making sure that we rebuild the mighty black working class in Chicago. That's how we're going to do it. And young people is what we're going to start with. So
and can I just chime in real quick too, because you just said a lot, but I want to chime in. This is something that we need to do. We need to understand as the black community is that when it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to the state of our people, and we start comparing ourselves to Bridgeport and Chinatown and all these other places, right? You have to actually look at the dynamics of those communities holistically before you start comparing it to ours and thinking that we just need to put a whole bunch of businesses up and everything gonna be all right. Because here's how you know. The next
but you gotta know the history of this city too, though.
Let me finish. I listened to your whole. I listened to your whole point. So let me just finish, and then you can respond. When you go to Bridgeport or any of those places, next time you go to a thriving local business in those areas, don't look at the business owner. Go inside and ask the customer what they do for a living. Ask the customers what they do for a living. And I guarantee you, they're not going to give you the same answers as the 55% unemployment rate in the hood. They got good jobs, decent jobs, most of them. Most of them are working downtown. They are getting the contracts. They are getting the positions. When you put your resume in, they are getting it over our people for the same positions. Even for the fire department, there's a huge issue right now with black people making it through to the fire department hiring process because there's so much nepotism of you the chief's son and you the white officer, like so much nepotism of getting into the fire department. So our black youth are getting overlooked for those jobs. So if we want to talk about entrepreneurship, we have to first we have to have a focus on building up the workers and the people in our community to patron those businesses. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with opening a business, but you better figure out how to build up your customers' income and lifestyle before you even think about opening a business in the hood. Because if your customers is all jacked up and messed up and don't have good jobs and can't get them because of all of the barriers that we not willing to fight, but you just want to open a business, then you're going to find yourself struggling to have that business patroned, especially if we want to be all segregated and we don't even welcome other people to come patron it from other neighborhoods. So we're going to have to make a decision real quick. If we want to only have patrons that are Black and we want to keep people out of our community and keep it segregated, great, wonderful. But guess what? That means they ain't going to be customers. That means they're not going to be shopping at our stuff like we shopping at theirs. So have fun with that economically.
Well,
so we're talking about economics.
I
right?
don't know.
So
don't know
let's
about,
talk about how we actually boost up the everyday people in our communities to have a disposable income. You patron a business because your lights ain't off. You patron a restaurant or an ice cream shop or a little clothing store because your gas ain't off. It's called disposable income. The people you see in those neighborhoods that's patroning these businesses is because they have disposable income. Their lights are on, their gas is on, and their basic material needs are met. That's why they fill in those businesses. That's why those businesses are successful.
So let me say this, because I only speak about things that I actually do. Now, I don't pontificate. The second busiest, the second strongest business district in Chicago, you know where it is, Erica?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Do you know what the second strongest business district is in Chicago?
Second strongest or the first? Second strongest?
Yeah, the second.
Go ahead,
I'll tell you where it's at. It's on 22nd Street, and that is so interesting. That is an economic hub for the Mexicans, for the Mexican Chicagoans, right? You have to build business districts because, as a business owner, I'm going to tell you something. I built a business, and I'm still building and growing it. But you know who I hire? I hire people that look like me and people who look like you. People from Chicago. People that I do business with are from different racial groups. You know who they hire?
Mm-hmm.
People who look like them. That's a common human behavior. If you walk into a lunchroom, you've never been there before, it's mixed groups. You're going to find the one that most look like you. Most people will, not all, but most people instinctively go to who they think is like them. That's what we have to do. Again, we start with an economic floor, government jobs. We all pay for those jobs. I don't want to see a Chicago where everybody that's riding in those blue and white trucks that are policing our communities don't look like me. Same thing with the fire department, which is actually why I'm running a fair testing bill right now at Springfield, the state senator, to make certain that our people have a good opportunity to be able to be promoted up the ranks in the fire department. Chicago has a very, very unfair way of doing testing. I'm working on that as state senator. But I'm going to tell you, our community, I will never let our community get lost in this sauce. I want us to get very, very, very clear. We don't need 20 ideas. We need one. And that one idea is get our people back in business because we hire each other. We have to have an economic agenda. Once you formulate an economic base, your community is run by you. When you have a community where everybody else is coming in your community, extracting the resources that we do have with big spenders, they take that money outside of our community. Those communities where they take that money to are thriving. This ain't rocket science. So I just want us to be, and I love these conversations. I was enjoying it. I was listening for a while. But I want us to do what we have done already well. And that is when we have thriving businesses. That is when we have a fair concentration of government jobs and government contracting. That is when we have a focus on community that starts in our house. Every one strong household makes a strong block. A strong block makes a strong community. And strong communities is what the black community is missing right now because we're unprotected because we don't have strong communities. And I can tell you that if we start with the economic floor, if we start there, then our schools are going to be better.
Oh,
Just like
absolutely.
we see it in all other communities. If we start there, our health is going to be better. I'm gonna jump off because I was loving this conversation.
Yeah, this is a great conversation, and I just want to leave it saying like as much as I would love it to be like
love y'all. Talk to y'all later.
Thanks so much. And as much as we would like to say, that we hire people that look like us, meanwhile we got black people struggling to hire Brandon Johnson. So, that's struggling to hire Brandon Johnson as mayor, and they going with white dude backed by white supremacists. But if I had a dollar for every time I hear a black politician talk about entrepreneurship, some capitalist type thing as like the solution for our communities without and kind of dismissing more creative, nuanced ideas as like too much or like we can't, that man, I would have a lot of dollars. And it's because they all say that. Like, how many times have we heard that, y'all? How many times? And nothing against Senator Willie Preston, but like, that's the same thing every black alderman has said for how long? How long? The same thing. Entrepreneurship, jobs, businesses, right? But obviously we're missing something, right? And you want to know historically one of the exactly, Vicky Lowe, old ways. You want to know historically when the black community in Chicago was the most thriving? From my understanding of history, it was actually around the 1920s, back when we had the Chicago Renaissance, when the black community in Bronzeville and those areas was the hubs for jazz music, the blues, and different forms of black art. And even white people was in the hood to hear those black musicians play. We owned music. It was ours. And if you wanted to hear the best music in the country, you had to come to our hood. You had to eat at our ice cream shop. You had to get water at our store. You had to actually honor the fact that we were an economic base just like your neighborhood. Because if you wanted to hear them blow them horns, if you wanted to hear all those old school players that from back in the day, if you wanted to hear Muddy Waters, if you wanted to hear any of them, you had to come to us. If you wanted to see them live, you had to come to us. We owned our music. So when we have people with this traditional rhetoric of just business, just this, and not willing to think creatively, not willing to think outside the box, and then we just talked about drill music, right, and all that, we need to think outside the box to become the black hubs of good music that we used to be. Encouraging our young people to learn how to play instruments because it's a real job now. Because our communities is where you hear the best music. Our communities is where you get to hear live bands. Our communities is where you get to hear the horns play. If we could actually build that back up, that becomes an economic hub. Because of the old rhetoric and the old ways, nobody thinks like that. Nobody thinks like that. And so we end up missing these opportunities to hit multiple angles at once. The participation of our youth in art activities after school, connected to jobs in arts and theater connected to economic opportunities of people coming to us to listen to the greatest music in the country, and how it all connects. It all connects, all because somebody was willing to think outside the box. But because we don't have that and we hear the same thing every time, we not getting changed. We got to think outside the box. And that's why I like Brandon Johnson, because he actually is one of the few candidates I've ever seen that has an entire platform just dedicated to artists. So that artists that are truly contributing to this city can have a guaranteed basic income for when COVID hit and stuff, artists was hard hit. But what if we actually propped up and promoted the arts in the city? especially in the Black community. Good art, not drill music. And brought that back to life. I'm tired of seeing the skeletal remains of Bronzeville with paintings on the wall of the people playing the musical instruments from back when that place used to be bussin'. I'm tired of that being the skeletal remains of our culture. Yes, Black Belt, somebody said. We was thriving most then because everybody had to come to us. If you wanted to hear anything good, that is. But that's all I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I'm crazy, Martin. Maybe I'm crazy.
No. Listen. I'm not a politician. So listen, I'm the crime chaser. That's who I am. I'm good at what I do. So I'm sit back. I'm a student. I'm learning right now.
Oh, thank you, Deneen, for saying that. It wasn't just music and entertainment. It was Black doctors, Black lawyers, and Black-owned businesses. Thank you so much, Deneen, for saying that. You are absolutely right. Thank you for bringing that out. And you want to know something, Deneen? That had to do with back in those days, college education didn't cost what it costs now, even for a Black person. College education is redunculous, okay? Nowadays, to become a doctor or a lawyer, the type of debt you got to get into. And all of that is for our younger generation is such a barrier. So you rather just get like a regular, whatever job that don't require a degree because of that amount of debt you got to go into. And then that's 4 years of not really being able to work a full-time job because you got to focus on school. And so it's such a hard decision. But back in the day, back in those days, a college student could work a summer job at a restaurant and afford their entire tuition the next semester. It ain't like that no more. But you have an excellent point about the combination of access to careers, access to education, access to trades, right? Plumbers and all that. And even when music and entertainment was big in our communities, right? We had servers who would serve at the restaurant. So they were getting tips. They were getting paid. We had the musicians was getting paid. We had the bartenders was getting paid. We had the different vendors like the Latino people now that are vendors. We used to have tons of vendors back in our day because so many people was trafficking in our community for the awesome entertainment. Vendors. So guess what? When those vendors aren't working, when those servers aren't working, when those bartenders aren't working, they coming into your business. They coming into your store with that money that was generated from the rest of Chicago, who has to come to our neighborhood, to enjoy something that only we can give them. Black people, one of the parts of reparations in this country is that Black people should own the music industry. Black people should own the cotton industry, the music industry, the tobacco industry, and a lot of the agricultural industry, if we really talk about reparations.
Erica, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Can you name me one thing that Black people own and control?
Own and control. You got me stumped, Martin.
We don't own anything. We don't own anything.
We don't own anything. And we don't truly control anything. And that's the key right there, is that we don't own nor control anything. And then even so, Vicky, like you said, Jet Magazine, and I heard, did somebody say BET? I hope nobody said BET, because y'all know that's owned by Viacom. And Viacom is so what happens is there's these umbrella companies, right, that actually buy out all the other networks and like different things that are not Black owned. And so it's true. So you still have owners, like Black people still have owners, even in sports. I saw somebody put sports, even the NFL players that are Black, because we dominate the NFL, we dominate the NBA. What's the name of the white people over the teams? They're called the owners. Right?
Right.
It's called the owners. And Tiffany Wilson, you said we own banks. Not enough. Not enough banks. We sure as heck don't own enough banks, because as of right now, Tiffany Wilson,
Erica.
check cashing stores dominate our community.
Erica, hold it right there. Who owns the currency?
Thank you.
Whose face is on the currency?
My God.
So let me say this point, and I'm gonna let you talk, Erica. Listen, for what we just said, that's still the same relationship that the white folks that brought us over here for years, and we have the same relationship with Master right now. The same relation. We don't own nothing, own or control nothing. Trust me. Listen, COVID taught me a lesson. Now, George Floyd taught me a lesson.
And can I say something real quick, Martin? Because I see this comment. Tiffany Wilson said, but you just lied, Erica. I haven't lied about nothing, Tiffany. As a matter of fact, pull up the black banks you're talking about and go ahead and look up what the FDIC security bank is that they are actually a subsidiary of. And I guarantee you it's probably a larger entity that's like, in order to give them the FDIC, because you have to actually be approved for FDIC clearance as a bank. And most black banking institutions have to get their FDIC clearance through another larger institution. Most. I'm not saying there might not be a rare exception, but if it's a rare exception, that's not enough to help our people. But go ahead, Martin.
No, I'm not. Listen, I'm in school this session. I just want to show the same relationship that we had when our people was brought over here, and we have that same relationship right now. And I often say, you sound like me. We sick, and we need to address the sickness, before we can get to this level. It's like we starting all over again. We have mental health problems right now. I mean, we can't think. This old preacher, he always say, black people, we buy what we want and we beg for what we need. And that's where we spend our money.
Yeah, and Tiffany Wilson said, I'm not giving you answers, Erica. We own black banks now. You're being jealous of black success. No, Tiffany, I am not jealous of black success. I am not even jealous of anything. I'm just pissed off. I'm pissed off about individualistic black success that is not benefiting black people as a whole. That's what I don't like. I'm tired of the small few that get to have a little something and think they got a little something while the rest of our community is completely devastated. That ain't no win. That ain't nothing to be proud of. That ain't nothing to be celebrating. It's not. And it's not jealousy, it's anger. I am angry that we are even satisfied to have just a few of us have a little something while the rest of us suffer. While y'all talking about how these other communities move and roll, one thing I will say, I'm not saying they don't got their rich people in their own race and stuff, but they make sure that it's at least somewhat cyclical where people can participate. They don't leave everybody else destitute in the community while only 3 of them, like seriously, like we gotta break free from this, y'all. And my concern with some of the mindsets we have that have been indoctrinated by capitalism as black people, even though that's the very system that brought us to this shore as slaves, is this whole thing about like, almost like we don't want to dismantle white supremacy, but almost like we envy it. It's like we don't want to stop the white man. We want to be the white man. And it's very concerning.
Let me help you out a little bit. That reminds me of a biblical term where the slaves, they were the Egyptians were the slaves were. They was in love with Pharaoh wealth. And that's the same way we are right now. We so we just adorned Pharaoh's wealth, all these wonderful, nice things and these cars, these homes and all this thing. And that's all we seeking and striving for. We need power.
That's it.
Power.
Tell it, Martin.
Tell people, power, people.
Yes.
Power to change things, man. Power to write legislation, people.
Yes.
It's power. The individual success is nothing, people. That's what I tell people. Man, I could get big dollars probably from the Brandon camp. I said, no, all I want from Brandon is to hit the south and west side, high crime, and hit them. Let us get some of that money. Don't let all that money go up on the north side. That's what I want, people. And I understand not all of us gonna be rich, but
That's it.
listen, should none of us be without no lights, no
That's it.
food, no clothes, no nothing?
That's it. That's
Now,
it.
we ain't
Oh,
got to have
Martin, I
Michael
love it.
Jordans. We ain't got to have mink coats, but we got to have the basic necessities.
Necessities. And that's the thing, Martin. When we talk about, people call it handouts and socialism and all these other labels, right? What community of all communities does not deserve a transfer of wealth from the wealthiest people to them, because we built this damn country, to supply basic needs, so that the income we do make can actually go to patroning Black businesses and patroning local businesses, because we'll actually have a disposable income and won't be struggling to make ends meet. Why the hell shouldn't the rich pay for that? Why not? I would love an answer. All y'all folks that's got a problem with what I'm saying, I would love a freaking answer. Why wealthy white people who are billionaires should not have to pay a higher tax on their next multi-million-dollar home purchase to transfer to our community, so that we got our guaranteed basic necessities met, and that our incomes could actually go to disposable income to patron Black entrepreneurs and businesses. Why the hell shouldn't they be taxed to do that? I'll wait.
All right, man, this is good. This is a great conversation, Erica. We got to get you back again, girl. Young lady, I tell you. Wow. We got to get you back again. I tell you, Erica ain't no punk, is she? I tell you. She ain't no punk. She's no punk.
I appreciate you so much, Martin, for having me on tonight.
Marcus,
thank you.
Hold on. Before you go, hold on. I want Marcus to say something. I always let him say 2 or 3 words before we close out. Then I'll let you go, because we've been on 3 hours. Go ahead, Marcus. Go ahead, Marcus.
Well, basically, I just want to thank you, Erica, for coming on the show. There's really nothing that I have to say, because you pretty much, this is one of those moments where you just listen and learn and see things from a different perspective that you never would have thought of. And that's what you've shown me tonight. I mean, basically, just thank you for coming on the show. Continue to do what you're doing. And Martin, do have her again. You might want to try to call in the WVON too. I don't know what their policy is, but call in and join into some of their topics.
Thank you so much, Marcus. Thank you so much, Marcus. It was a pleasure being on here with you tonight as well. You had really great comments as well. And all the listeners and everybody, even the people that was trolling, I thank everybody for tuning in. Martin, thank you. Thank you for having me on tonight. It was so fun.
I want to say
all my homies. I see my homies on here, so I just
No,
gotta
you
say
can't say
wow.
nothing.
And the fact that y'all stayed the whole time.
You can't say nothing.
Great. And some
Right,
of y'all
'cause she's
called in.
wrong.
That's
She
awesome.
works in the white boy.
I'm sorry?
No,
saying that we paralyzed as a people,
ignore
Mark.
that. Ignore that. And I took off. That's Tiffany again, teacher. Listen. First, you were so smart and intelligent. Now you don't know nothing. Tiffany, so come on now, Tiffany.
And again, and just to be clear, we are not paralyzed. We are one of the most powerful things that ever happened to this country. And it's just time for us to rise up. That's it.
Listen, Erica, do me a favor. This is a friend of mine, Brother Ronnie Manhattan. Address this question. I like what he said here. He said that Black people have everything we need except unity. We don't need white folks for anything except to leave us alone. What do you think about that?
Well, Ronnie, I feel you. Okay. But to be honest though, one of the things that they say about the Black dollar, right? It doesn't circulate it doesn't circulate long in our communities. The Black dollar, I believe, leaves our community within a few minutes. Whereas in other communities, their dollar circulates amongst each other for like multiple times before it leaves their community. And what that shows is that Black people tend to not have our own things. And so we are out there paying for somebody else patroning someone else, right?
Right.
And then the dollar that we spend goes into their community and it keeps circulating amongst each other, right? And it never comes to ours. So I think there's a part of us that needs to rethink the idea that I'm not saying we need anything from white people, but like rethink the idea that they don't need nothing from us.
Mm.
Rethink that, because there was a time when, like I was talking about music, there was a time when they couldn't hear the best music unless they came to our neighborhood and spent money with us. It's time for us Black people to start owning what we own. It's time for us to stop allowing candidates like Paul Vallis and others to have this anti-Black, scary Black people narrative that chases people away from our communities to spend money, because we are painted as these scary, scary beings that no one should be around, right? All that hurts us economically. All that hurts our businesses when we allow ourselves to perpetuate these over police. Because here's the thing: while they want to send police in our neighborhoods to over police us while they're voting for Paul Vallis, guess what? Them white people don't want to be in our neighborhood when all them police is streaming everywhere. They don't want to be there. They don't want to shop there. They don't want to go see a show or go eat at a restaurant over here while they done deployed troops of cops. They don't even want to be around that military encampment. They want to give us a military encampment, but they ain't finna shop in one.
Mm. Erica, I got a last person. Somebody said I ignored 912. It wasn't that. I mean, Erica is, I'm just co-hosting. She's the host today, but come on, 912. Give you 3 minutes to say whatever you want to say. Yeah.
Okay. Somebody said skills to pay the bills. Man, I can relate to that. That's all good. And when Erica was talking about college debt, I'm like, oh, college debt. Okay. You have a lot of people that are doggone, they make the height and weight and have a high school diploma for 3 years of military enlistment, and it'll pay for their whole college fee. But what happens? All these movies, Black folk don't join the military, blah, 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 blah. A lot of stuff that's said is put out there, and it works against us. Like Erica said, she's from Miami. She moved to Inglewood, right? I grew up in Inglewood from birth, okay? Left at 24. A move like that, hell, she could have just moved to Overtown, because Inglewood is 5 times the size of Overtown, and it's the same thing as Overtown, Miami. And you talk about somebody that won the Maestro Award at the Winter Music Conference in Miami. So I do know what I'm talking about. Last point. Rednecks and hood people, they both the same. They live in the same type of environment. One is rural, one is urban. Okay? They play the blame game equally, the victim game. Okay? The rednecks say, they're taking over the country. Really? Okay. You get Black folk that say, we oppressed. All right? And how are all situations solved? If something is going that somebody don't like, it's solved with violence. So rednecks and hood people are both the same. I'm glad I wrote down my little points, because I knew I wasn't going to be long on here.
Did you want to
Well,
respond?
thank you so much for sharing. And just so you know, I didn't have to move to Overtown. That's what my family's from Overtown, Liberty City, and I was born and raised in Opelika. So we from the hood down there. So I'm not, I'm not unfamiliar with being in the hood. But I came here, like you said, you moved away at 24. I was actually, a bit younger than you, and I came here. So I mean, I've been here now for a good chunk of my life in Chicago as a young person. So I definitely consider this my home. I love Florida, and that's always going to be, my heart. But it's almost like your blood, your blood versus your bones. You know what I'm saying? You need them both. And that's how I feel about these places. But this is why I've chosen. And for most people, they ask me why, why would you come here? You from that? People ask me, why would I decide to stay here in Chicago when I'm from a place like Miami that's warm all year, don't got no winters, all that stuff. Why would I come here? Well, it's because I love this city. And if I didn't love this city, I surely wouldn't live here. But that, I think, love matters, about loving a people, loving a city, because there's people who've lived here all their life that don't love this city. There's people who've lived here their life that don't love the people of this city. And so it's definitely important that we, show that love. And as far as the military being a way to pay for college, I should not have to die for no white supremacist country that ain't gave me equal rights yet just to go to college. I'm sorry. They can keep that.
Well, that's the thing. That's one of the things, young lady. I call you young lady is not to be offensive, but I'm like 6 years older than Mark. So I call you young lady. A problem that a lot of people have, and it's not just a black thing, a lot of people have is I shouldn't have to. I shouldn't have to defeat you. I mean, it's like with myself, right? I come from a family of retired Chicago police officers. I could have been a Chicago police officer. I just was not feeling Chicago like that since my childhood. I couldn't wait for the opportunity to leave. So I'm like, you all do that, deal with all this stress that y'all dealing with all day long, for a career, and end up with health problems that are stress related. I'm going to do something else. So I did my something else. You know what I mean?
Understandable. And that's the thing, the idea that military service.
There's a young lady. Oh, say again? I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say the idea that military service.
Hello?
Yes. Can you hear me?
We're still here.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So the idea that military service.
I just walked back in the house.
Oh, he talking to somebody else.
Yeah. Go ahead, talk, Erica.
No. I heard you.
You hear me? Okay. I was just gonna say, I think we need to really start rethinking.
Yeah. Sometimes you know what? I'm sorry. Sometimes when I come in, when I come in the front, my signal gets messed up in the kitchen. I think it's radioactive or something. Go ahead. I'm in another area. Of the house.
Live, uncut, unedited.
Yeah, it is. I got Boost Mobile, and Boost Mobile be live and talk.
Not Boost Mobile.
Hey, Sarge, I got to give him special attention, because, Sarge and Tiffany and one more other person, I ain't going to call their name, they got to have special attention, I'm always picking on them, they say, but that's okay.
Tiffany and I should be Facebook friends.
Listen, I'm Tiffany friend, right?
We should.
Listen to this.
But
hey, Sarge, hold on. I'm Tiffany friend, but I can't see her friends.
Yes.
So I'm trying to figure out what she's trying to hide. Now she friends with me.
Oh,
she
wow.
can see my friends.
Well, you're on my Facebook. You're on my Facebook friends. Listen, my Facebook page is completely public. It shows everything. I don't even have photo albums that are like friends only. I don't do friends only on social media. Okay. It is what it is.
Well, go ahead and make another statement so we can get out of here, man.
I'm an Iraq, Afghanistan veteran. Ain't nobody gonna come looking for me. They don't want that action. But back to the sister here that was talking. She was trying to make a point, and I'm sorry my phone went crazy. I hate for her to not be able to make her point.
Oh no, you're fine. Can I call you Sarge? Everybody seems to call you Sarge.
Yeah, we call him Sarge.
Sarge.
Yeah. It's all good.
Yeah, so Sarge.
By the way, Eric, he's a professional DJ.
Oh.
Well known, big time too.
Nice.
But I'm gonna challenge him. I'm on 1200s. He probably still using that board. So, but we'll talk about that later. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say, I think this generation is.
Sorry, I'm just talking to you, but I do
y'all
got
so
1200s.
silly. Sarge sound like he at the base, the platoon. Sarge, you there? But what else?
I'm here. It's just somebody won a ripping victory, so now I got to buy him a Roblox card.
These comments, I can't with y'all.
Yeah, that's why I came outside because I don't want them to be in the background. I'm a grandfather, and
real quick before I go, just to address what you said. I think this generation has come to a point where we have a little more nuance on the traditional ways in which this country has indoctrinated us as a white supremacist nation to believe that we should engage in it as Black people. And we have begun as a generation to challenge many of those concepts, like joining the military, participating in white supremacist wars to gain oil, to oppress other brown people. Not that it's new, because I mean, of course, Muhammad Ali is very famous to having that same view even before we were born. But this generation is very similar to that. Like, we're not really trying to go with that, like, because they don't even treat us right here. And y'all trying to send me to somewhere else to die to bring them democracy. Meanwhile, y'all voter suppressing in Mississippi. Y'all could go find somebody else to go do that. And then also the idea, even policing. I think our generation is a little more clear that policing is based in the institution of slave catching. And it has never fully divorced itself from that history. It has never fully divorced itself from the history of slave catching. And so to this day, we get hunted down like runaways, dead or alive. With this dead or alive, capture them dead or alive mentality. And until policing becomes divorced from those roots and becomes something completely different, our generation is not really amped to become police officers either, even though, unfortunately, those are some of the best consistent paying jobs. But it shouldn't be like that. We need to create more opportunities for good paying jobs with benefits that don't involve busing Negroes over the head.
Okay. Can we close now?
Yeah. No, I understand. I understand all that fully. But now I'm throwing the butt in there because I'm looking at it like this. Okay, if there's an opportunity for you to take, whereas you could provide for your family, and it's in accordance with, the laws of this country, by all means, you should take that. Take that opportunity, short term or long term, whatever. Because I just told my grandson today, the only true failure is not even trying. You see what I mean? So take the opportunity and do what you do. Now, one thing, and I'll be very brief on this, one misconception that a lot of Black people have about the military is that Black people go front line. No. When joining the military, the vast majority of Black people, if they want to go and be infantry or in a specialized group or airborne or whatever, they have to request it walking through the door. Other than that, they're not even offered those occupations. And I understand the logic behind it. The logic is you're going to teach these people all of these tactics for combat and let them go back to their community and perhaps pass that knowledge on to the next one?
No, actually, they let soldiers come back to their community after taking these jobs, and they can't even get a job. That's what happens. There's too many homeless soldiers and veterans.
No.
There's too many sick veterans. There's too many veterans that are not cared for by this country. So I'm with Muhammad Ali on this one. I don't care if it's front line, back line, middle line, or sideline. They could keep that line. Okay?
Okay.
Not doing it.
A lot of those guys, and trust me, I know plenty of combat veterans. I am one. 4 years of my life living that life. They are self-medicating through drugs, if not alcohol. Mainly drugs. So that's where you get the homeless situation. Right?
This country don't even take, because they literally left the war. They're traumatized and they don't get the help that they need. This country do not take good care of this country should be a dang shamed of itself for the way it takes care of veterans. And y'all trying to convince young people to join the military? Not this generation ain't going. I'm sorry to break it to you.
Hold on.
But we ain't going, okay? Y'all better go find somebody. Y'all better ask them Ukrainians.
I already know that part, but let allow me to explain something to you. I'm gonna give you the dollar figure. Okay. Me, 100% disabled veteran. I can walk and everything, but I have PTSD. So, okay. I don't pay property taxes. That comes with $50,000 a year. That goes up according to the inflation rate. Now, my daughter, that's my bonus child. I have one biological son and I have a daughter. She's a Purple Heart veteran. Okay. She just retired from the military, tax free. She gets $91,000 a year. She's 41 years old. Okay. Then you have my son. Okay. He doesn't pay health insurance on his job or any of that. He didn't pay any money. He didn't pay any money down to purchase a home. I mean, there are benefits to it. There are benefits to it.
I like
and,
I like what
we have to do some option weighing.
Not to
That's all
not to
I'm saying.
cut
I'm
you
not
off,
trying to
Sarge.
convince anybody to join. Trust
Not
me.
to cut you off, Sarge, but there's a comment, Leroy. I like what you just said. Leroy Bridges said, "I got PTSD from growing up in the hood." Nah, dead serious, yo. Dead serious. We could literally clock some of the
Yeah, that's the
behaviors and
thing.
some of the trauma.
Okay, sister, I'm reading the comments. I thought he was talking to me on something I said on Martin's show before. I got PTSD when I was 3 years old. Okay, in Inglewood, my brother, his friend, and a female friend got gunned down on the next block, ran home, and were bleeding all over my mother's kitchen floor. Now, at the age of 3, I didn't understand all the parameters of it, but I knew it wasn't normal. And as a child, I didn't really go outside to play until I was 7 or 8 years old because I thought somebody was going to shoot me.
I hear you. Now, Sarge,
I already had PTSD.
Sarge, you just
from the
talked
get-go
about
gate.
you just talked about grown men that you know who've seen war that are currently self-medicating and engaging in unhealthy behaviors because they don't get help. And we don't see a correlation to the young people in our communities who have PTSD that are choosing unhealthy self-medicating behaviors and engaging in unhealthy activities because they're not getting help. But when Brandon Johnson talks about trauma, treatment, not trauma, or that we should address the root causes, everybody act like that's some kind of like he talking some type of weird language. These are babies. These are kids. There's grown men who come back from war that can't handle that type of stuff. But we expect our babies to see this type of stuff and not be jacked up. I'm just saying we could learn a lot from the veterans.
I don't know if you remember Okay, now, sister, if Martin remembers, Martin will back me up on this. At the age of 6, I was a codeine addict. Due to the situation of that shooting and the domestic violence that was going on in my household. I don't know if you remember me telling that story or not.
I don't remember telling the story, but go ahead. Wow, I didn't know.
Okay. Because remember, I was talking about that. Then I said when I was in the hospital, in the children's hospital, I got molested as a child.
Yes, I did. I'm sorry, Sarge.
Okay, thank you. So
I'm sorry.
No, Martin, it's all good.
Okay.
Martin, it's all good. Okay. It's all about the truth. The only way you get to people need to get that out their system. See, they can't hold all that pain in. Don't hold it in. Get it out. And you'll grow and get better. But, that's my childhood.
And Sarge,
and there's someone else that had a childhood that was the same. So when you're talking about PTSD, baby girl, I had PTSD at 3, and then I was a drug addict.
I understand.
At 6, and then I was molested in a hospital getting treatment, which gave me more PTSD.
Absolutely, you were traumatized as a child, and I just want Sarge,
from the war.
I just want to say, Sarge, thank you for sharing your story, because it takes a lot of courage to share those stories, and enough of us don't hear those stories, particularly from the older generation, of like how this has perpetuated over generations. So I think your story is very important. But also, like, one thing I wanted to add is that think about your story being multiplied by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of children on our street today. And then we wonder why they're carjacking us. We wonder why they out here acting a fool. We wonder, and you
Exactly.
said that we keep it all in. They're actually not keeping it in. They're letting it out in very unhealthy, toxic ways that only a child knows how to do, and a young, like, without their brains fully developed. And we are, as the community, suffering from the lack of treatment, the lack of addressing these babies, and addressing these young people, and addressing this trauma-ridden community. And instead, we want to just throw a business in the community, which is great, but we throwing businesses on top of traumatized people, and that's not gonna like, we can't treat social issues as separate from economics, and we can't treat economics separate from social issues. It is all connected. So I thank you for your story, because you truly exemplify exactly what's being
Because
multiplied
I
out
feel
here
you,
in our
sister.
communities.
Okay. All right, Sergeant.
Because see, you can't pay somebody enough. You can't pay somebody enough for, well, it's okay. Here, take this $1 million. It's okay. You can't pay the brain from not thinking about trauma. It doesn't work that way.
Absolutely.
Now,
You need
people will
true help,
use
and you need true
drugs
support.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, you
And the
need true
fortunate
help
thing
and
about me
true
is
support.
I did get said help. Said help is available, but some people, especially with men, and Martin, I'm gonna be brief. I promise.
Please, because I'm
with
trying to go to
men,
bed.
male ego. I understand, Martin. Male ego, man. I'm too strong to break for that. Cause see, that's the male ego. Okay, you have a lot of women out here that behave the way that they do because they've been abused in their childhood. There's trauma. You know what? If people actually focused on get that trauma out.
Yes.
And start to heal, that'll change everything. As long as you got all this trauma that people are not talking about and not getting out of their system to move forward in life, they're not going to move forward in life. They could win a lottery and have millions of dollars. They're not going to be happy.
Yeah.
Still dealing with this trauma.
Absolutely. And you just really nailed it, Sarge.
That transcends voting, like Republican, Democrat, because I'm a Republican, but that transcends all that trauma. You see what I'm saying? And people, parents be like, well, I should have seen. You can't watch your child 24 hours a day. You don't know. And children, and sometimes they don't know how to even bring that to their parent.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And so you just hit the nail on the
Martin,
head, Sarge.
So, no, I'm done. I didn't mean to disturb your sleep, bro.
All right.
No, you're fine.
So she got the last word on everything.
Yeah,
let it go. Okay, Sarge.
Yeah,
thank
and
you.
I'll close out from what Sarge just said. That's exactly why this election is so important, y'all. And why we need to start thinking differently than we've ever thought before. It is time. How many times have we heard economics and entrepreneurship is the solution from almost every Black politician that comes across our ballot or our screen? That's what they always say, right? But you painting over a broken house when you just go straight to the money and not address the trauma, right? Or vice versa, when they say bring more police is the answer. Just police us to death, right? It's like we're never getting to the root. We're never actually stripping down that paint, stripping down that old facade, instead of just painting over scars. Money is just painting over scars. Entrepreneurship, opening up a business surrounded by traumatized people without addressing the trauma, sicking police on traumatized people and adding more trauma to the trauma. That's no longer the solution, y'all. We will have more safety, which is what people think police is going to bring, and we will have greater economic success, which people think entrepreneurship is going to bring, if we finally get to the root of our people being able to be free and healthy. Free and healthy. enough to function, create, imagine, dream, thrive, and actually be the ones to create these new businesses, being the ones to design the next invention or create the next musical piece or learn to play a new instrument, whatever. We need to get healthy, y'all, and we need to prioritize that in how we use our money, how we legislate, and not just sick the police on each other as the answer no more. We have the opportunity to actually thrive as a people. This election is vital, y'all. Get out and vote. Tell your peoples to vote. I hope that I was informative. I hope that I was able to be compassionate and understanding on this call. Martin, I appreciate you. I appreciate all the callers and having me on tonight.
Listen, let me give you an open invitation. Anytime. 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 You hear me? Anytime.
Thank you so much.
Anytime, anytime. That's anytime. They love you. They love you. You took us to school today. I felt like I got to go back and go over this and get my pad because it's so much information. I ain't going to be able to remember all of it. It's so much valuable information. And I appreciate you, sister. I don't know you from a can of paint. We was out there, but I'm the real man. I just stay focused on what I do. But I appreciate you having the boldness to come on here. I didn't know you probably thought we was going to attack you. Shut up, young man. You don't know what you do. Okay?
But even if y'all did, I stay ready, Mark.
I know. Okay. All right. I appreciate it. Thank you, Marcus, man. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Tiffany love you now. She got somebody else to beat up on.
Lord.
Go request to be a friend so you can leave me alone.
Lord, help us today.
All right.
Y'all.
All right. Thank you so much. We out of here. This is live. You already know what it is. Live, uncut, unedited. This is where we tell the truth and shame the devil. And number one, I love being black. I love being black. Good night, y'all. I'm out of here. Peace out.